My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
The team game is finished, and trying to work out how you were supposed to manage some very, very long distances with a friend of yours in your team to try and get as many points as possible has now finally come to an end. But that doesn't mean that this championship is over. In fact, some would say it's only just beginning. Crunch time rounds, there's 4 of them left, and this is the first of the 4. We head over to the Patagonian plate and we head over to Sao Paulo because we are here at the wonderful circuit of Interlagos, which time and time again I'd say would be an absolutely perfect place to end a championship. This is V8SCOPS. This is presented by the Virtual Racing School to Ezy Finance, Oceanic Sim Racing and Motum Simulations, here as a SimSpeed TV presentation brought to you on the iRacing Esports Network. And my name is Jake Sperry, joined by the Southpaw racer, Reese Gardner, here as per usual for this one. And Reese, this is where you start putting the chips down on the table. This is where you have to really find some form and results, because Endurance Cup was all about a different philosophy of driving. We're back into sprint mode now. We're back into the only person who can bail yourself out is yourself.
Exactly. There's no one to help you in the garage. Jump into the car when you're all tired and just wanting a break. We got a 250-kilometer race coming up in Split 1, but of course we've got Split 2 action at the moment. 22-lap race coming up for those guys. I'm looking forward to this. Interlagos has always been a circuit that produces fantastic racing in these cars, and last year it was certainly the site of some fantastic charges throughout the field with the reverse grid format. That's not happening this year, but with 2 pit stops on the line in Split 1, it's going to be interesting in the strategy stakes as well.
But before that, we have Super Split 2, and I have to say, it looks thoroughly miserable out there, and I hope that they manage to enjoy the conditions that are on and available for them here today. But before we talk about conditions, before we talk about Super Split 2, we are going to have a little look into this Interlagos circuit. What makes it tick? What makes it go? And how do you get fast? Reese Gardner has stood by with his patented fact file.
Brazil, a country with a rich history and sporting culture and one of the greatest contributors to motorsport legend. Fitting then that its premier circuit in Sao Paulo is considered one of the world's greatest challenges. This weekend, the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS races at the Autodromo José Carlos Paz, otherwise known as Interlagos. This circuit is a throwback to ages past, while still remaining a great example of the modern racetrack. Its facilities may not be as clinical as other Formula 1 venues, but out on the tarmac, this track is a treat. Its lap length is short for an F1 circuit at only 4.3 kilometers, but one gets a lot of racetrack crammed in there. Fast but twisty, with dips and rises at almost every one of its 15 corners, and with its fair share of heavy braking zones, Interlagos is a circuit for both the driver and the racer. The track's original layout was a nearly 8-kilometre maze of hairpins and sweepers. Much of this layout is actually still there today, but used as parking and access roads. Ground was broken in 1938 and the track was inaugurated in 1940. Its current layout dates from 1990. The first turns, the Senna S, are a solid introduction to the lap. With a high-speed approach, the braking point is later than you think, but it's needed for a late apex at turn 1. This allows the driver to widen the line into turn 2 and carry more speed down the Reta Opposta straight. But turn 3, the Curva do Sol, can slip you up. Many cars can take this corner flat, but you gotta be a bit more patient in these machines. Good thing there's a bit of tarmac on the exit to gather it up. Down Reta Opposta we go to turn 4, Descida do Lago. A good exit from turn 3 plus a slipstream can allow drivers to outbrake opponents into this corner, but they have to be wary of the track narrowing on the exit. If the move isn't cleanly completed before the apex, the driver on the outside may be shuffled off. Ferradura and Laranina combine to make a double apex uphill right. You carry a lot of speed into this corner, so it'll highlight any balance issues with the car, and in these vehicles, it's another potential passing spot in a battle. No sooner than you exit though, you come to the grueling hairpin section. You can brake early and use all of the apex curb at the first right-hander, but the plunge into Pinheirinho comes up right after, so make sure the car is settled. Pinheirinho is banked with a nice wide exit curb, tempting to just floor it out of there. Maybe on fresh tyres, but every other time, patience will pay off. Bico do Pato is the slowest corner on the circuit. It's a popular spot to throw one up the inside. The curved approach out of Pinheirinho means a gap opens by taking the normal line. You won't get an off track for using this curb, but it's a bit harsher than the others, so for stability's sake, it might be a good idea to avoid it. That will help you for Mergulo and Junção, the last proper turns on the lap. Mergulo drops into a valley. Easing off the throttle a little will keep the front tyres loaded so you can power out over the curb and use a bit of the runoff to widen the entry into Junção. It's a second gear exit, again with tempting big curbs, but it's better to kiss the apex and run out wide on the exit. An exit that is crucial for lap time because from here it's flat to the start-finish line. Mergulo and Junção, the last proper corners. I lied. Turn 14, Subida dos Boxes. It's a non-corner in most other cars, but you're right on the edge of grip in these V8 monsters. Not much room up here either, so you have to tip it in and nail the trajectory. Grass and a wall awaits if you get it wrong. Oh, and the pit entry. At the time the circuit was scanned, cutting across it was the natural racing line. So when the pit window comes around, be wary of cars slowing up to enter the lane. There could be a few nasty surprises down there. Interlagos came to iRacing in early 2013 after much controversy when Brazilian Customs confiscated the team's laser scanning equipment. Fortunately, the track was eventually completed and released, and it has made appearances on the Aussie touring car schedules ever since. I've seen many races here, and the same question always pops up in my mind. Who's going to emerge unscathed from lap 1?
Well, that's what happens when you go around this Interlagos circuit, how difficult it can very much be. We are about 6 minutes away from the start of racing action in Super Split 2, and everything is poised for trying to get one result on the table. That result is getting first place. That result of getting first place means a ticket to the main event and the longest night in SCOPS. That being a case of trying to get around on track and having another go out there at racing to score more points. Reese, this is very important for drivers who are looking at themselves in Super Split 2. A couple drivers who would feel like they shouldn't be in this position, but a couple drivers who feel like they are. Of course, it's not a full Super Split 2 grid, so there will be drivers looking to try and take advantage of this and gain in the places where they wouldn't necessarily do otherwise. But when you've only got one place to fight for, this is a very, very big battle that these drivers are going to be having over the course of racing. One pit stop, of course, in this Super Split 2.
Yes, indeed, and the times that you're seeing down the left of your screen are just the practice timesheets. That's not how they're going to start up for the grid. The grid for Super Split 2, as always, set by the times these drivers set in pre-qualifying through the course of the week. So Hayden Veld doing very well, putting himself up the top of the practice timesheets, and as it turns out, he is going to be starting on pole for this. But the rest of the field, they're going to be a couple of positions different from what you see there. The drivers like Jamie McKnight, like Jacob Knight, Stephen Varga, Ruben Goodall as well, Cameron Dance too. Drivers that have been in and around the top of Super Split 2, the lower reaches of Split 1. They've got a lot to fight for here tonight.
So you could also say for number 9 in this field, that of course being Ben Christensen, who I would say here is definitely out of position, has not liked pre-qualification over the course of the 18 hours worth of work that you could put into all of this, but ultimately it feels like it's going to be really, really difficult. Let's get a little look though at track conditions here today, because it's very, very awkward for a number of drivers here to try and work out what they are doing around this place here in practice. 18 degrees air temperature, 19 degrees track temperature, wind is 30 kilometers an hour. Because it's practice, the race distance is 1 billion miles and 1 billion kilometers and 1 billion laps that you can get out of things at this stage. But because it's very, very cloudy here today, that's going to make everything incredibly difficult. We've got 99% humidity at this track, and 99% humidity anywhere is really difficult. It's going to be like drinking soup for a lot of these drivers today.
Yeah, and I don't know how the engines are going to cope with all of this either. The air is going to be thick and soupy out there in urban Sao Paulo, and you see from these shots, you can barely see from one end of the track to the other, which you can in clear conditions. So the drivers in the cockpit, the markers are going to be a little bit different. You might be distracted a bit by the fog, but you still got to try and pick your braking markers. And you've also got to think about how the tires are going to work in conditions like this. The air temperature and track temperature nice and low, so we shouldn't see huge amounts of tire wear, but there's still a lot to play with on a foggy circuit.
Would you say in terms of this that probably next to no driver has practiced these conditions?
I'd say so. These kinds of conditions are ones that you don't usually see generated, and the pre-qualifying obviously had its own set of weather conditions, so it is a bit new for a few of the drivers out there, but they've been racing for a long time, of a lot of the drivers in this field, so they'll know their way around it.
Well, they'll know a way around the track, but they'll be hoping to do so in the quickest possible time, as is always the case with racing. It's going to be a brilliant battleground that we see time and time again. We're looking at Jamie McKnight here in a United Sim Sports car, and this will be a really, really interesting process to try and see who is getting what and who feels they have what in terms of this pace and moving up through the field and getting that golden ticket, which everyone seems to be wanting time and time again. But there are no guarantees here in terms of this championship. And also we've got a couple of new drivers running into the fold here for this one. Number 35 we've seen knocking on the door in and around in a number of series with SimSpeed TV. Daniel Hetterscheid looking to try and make a first real jump in the Hetterscheid Motorsports outfit, moving away from 111. And well, if he's fully floored on the side and the front of the car, well, he's got to be fully floored in terms of getting up places.
Yeah, Hayden Veld was fully floored on the exit of the hairpin there, a little bit too floored. But Daniel Hetterscheid, have noticed he's got some good pace under his belt in these Australian touring cars. I remember the Aussie Car V8 series that ran a short while ago. He won both races of that here at Interlagos, so knows his way around these cars. But in the lower reaches of the top 10 on practice time, there's definitely potential there for him to get into the top 5, maybe even a podium, because those times are pretty close, if they're anything to go by.
Potential is just that. It's all down to the drivers to try and realise what the potential is over the course of racing. Practice then is going to be coming over to a close. A 22-lap race will follow to decide who does make it then to the very, very top, who does have what it takes get themselves up into the highest echelon of league racing in iRacing. Who has what it takes to put themselves into the best series in the world when it comes to Australian touring cars. And this is how the grid lines up then for Super Split 2. 3 minutes to get themselves up onto the starting grid, as is customary for this season. And Hayden Veld in the KRF Eye Candy car starts on pole position with Ben Christensen for ANZ Motorsports alongside its 2 HJR cars, 1 and 2. Christian Smart starts third for Synergy Sim Racing with Kobe Jones in ANZ colours in 4th position. Then you've got Jacob Knight for Exto Gaming Motorsports and, Jacob Knight and Jamie McKnight. It's a round table of a third row here at this moment in time. Justin Wallace for Race on Oz starts from 7th with Stephen Varga in the United Sim Sports car in 8th position. Moving away from Mark 1, Ruben Goodall for Pursuit starts 9th, and Todd Parks rounds out the top 10 for Synergy.
It's a pretty short gridding time for this one, Sperry, so I think we are just about to go green. That's the rest of the field there in the top 20, but the revs are now rising.
Wow. Immediately already, I was surprised about that, and there's the green flag and go. So we are getting a little caught out then as they get themselves away. We thought we had a little bit longer. Christensen's got an okay start there on the inside, but Veld on the outside then having a good run. They can see them all look to funnel through, cross themselves over a little bit. Christensen's got the lead, but now immediately everyone's starting to funnel on through here, battling on for 3rd position right now as they go on through. As there's the lights then of the United Sim Sports car trying to get into things right now. Jamie McKnight's there, 3 wide. They're trying to think into turn number 4, and this is being held very, and there's contact there with Jones, and through will go McKnight, and through will go Justin Wallace.
Through will go just about no one else, though. There's been a big spinner in the back. Cameron Dance is around. Tyler Blackburn was involved in it as well. It's blocked the last half of the field just coming out of turn 5, so that's a big drama for many people further down in the field. Chris Coxhead among the drivers with damage.
Oh, and that's a horrible, horrible incident then to the mid to back. We'll catch it after the end of lap number 1 here, but there is Hayden Veld looking to catch Ben Christensen and try and put some pressure down early here. 1 position only needed, 1 golden ticket. There is the pack chasing at the moment. We look at Stephen Varga in 7th position, has gained a couple places then off of the start and is doing very well. Talk about gainers off the start. Henry King's up to 12th.
Excellent job from Henry King, but Kobe Jones was one of the drivers involved in that incident, and he is pretty far back now in the field. He wants to try and get going again. Still running in 5th, though, despite the tag at the turn 5 sequence. Ben Christensen still holds on to the lead meanwhile. It looks like it's a bit of a 2-horse race out the front, and they might go for a move at turn 4, but the pack behind is just as intense. We get a quick modem simulation replay of that incident coming into turn 4, a replay of the start.
Well, this was the good start that Christensen needed. He's on the inside of the circuit. It is the dirty side of the circuit, but able to get it down the inside. They crisscrossed over like they were playing the cha-cha slide, and ultimately it's a case of they just were able to hold it. Now the mid-pack was a little bit of a different story. We're going to take a look at this from Cameron Dance's perspective in a Texans Wittstein Motorsports machine here as they go on through towards the Skina del Lago. They're all trying to jostle a little bit for positions, and there's the contact in the background, so Dance was okay. Brown went Coxhead all on his own, but there was more dramas in the background. It was 2 separate incidents.
Yeah, looked like it. And Mitchell McLeod, one of the drivers least advantaged by that one. We'll take another quick view of it from McLeod's perspective. It was all started by, there we go. That's what started it. It was contact with Stadler there that started all of that. And McLeod, he tried avoiding action, but spun over the curb. There's just so many different incidents going on at the same time there. Difficult to pick apart.
It was very much a bubble into a bubble into a bubble of incidents right now out on track. Bus lap of the day set by Jamie McKnight then, 132.882. He's trying to chase down the pack in front. He is 1 second behind at this moment in time in the 3rd position in the 027 United Sim Sports entry here, trying to make things happen at this stage. Here is Hayden Veld, the pole sitter in the KRF Eye Candy car, on the brakes into the left, staring at the Ultra Tune on the wing, the Pixelsaurus there in the middle, the SimSpeed logo underneath, and trying to find a little bit of speed get on by so he can be the eye candy at the front of the field. At the moment, it's a case of just playing that simple waiting game here. Of course, that one pit stop's going to come into play in the not too distant future, and knowing that you're battling early only disadvantages you in these stages. You want to make sure it's between you and your teammates fighting for one place, not necessarily you, your teammates, and that one driver from that one team you really don't want to be in there.
Yeah, of course. There's a couple of battles like that going on a bit further in the pack from fourth place back. Justin Wallace heading up a train with Kobe Jones, Christian Smart, Ruben Goodall, and Stephen Varga all on the back of it. And they're keeping each other really good company, seeing a good exit from Christian Smart, and this might translate into a move on Kobe Jones into turn one. Oh, Subida dos Boxes, such a difficult corner in these cars, very narrow line, but it looks like Mr. Smart has managed to edge out Mr. Jones into the braking zone. We'll see if he holds on around the outside. Does Kobe? No, it's not going to happen. Christian Smart slips on through. Jones tries sticking it up the inside into turn two, but the move is done.
It was bold, it was brave, and well done, Christian Smart, for getting it done. Now, Ruben Goodall wants in on the action as we got Hetterscheid down in on the lane, out
Black
and
flag.
away. Once again, it looks like that could have been a drive-through penalty for Dan Hetterscheid there, so that is definitely not how things were wanted to be going. Was up to 13th place. Here's Andrew Mogridge, though, dealing with a bit of a hyperdrive car. Had a torrid time, did Team Hyperdrive, at the mountain, at the Great Sim Race. Darren McKenzie wants to chase, and that's a Ryan S. Jones that we don't often get to see behind a wheel.
Yeah, certainly. Ryan typically does commentary for Sim Speed on NIS and on the Majors series with me, hard and fast, and on Wednesdays as well. But he's decided to have a lob at Scops today, and doing very well up there in the lower reaches of that top 20, keeping it on the track. Meanwhile, Hayden Veld still pressuring Mr. Christensen up at the front here. And this exit from Junsao is what defines the lap for a lot of these drivers. It's completely flat out from here to the braking zone to turn one. So you mess up the exit to Junsao, then you can let your opponent have a look in, but it doesn't look like Veld is close enough this time.
No, Hayden Veld's looking to try and get as close as possible here to make a move, but again, not quite there as the 53 against the 9 on the brakes into the Senna S, which opens out this circuit, and then you attack through the Curva de Sol, the third corner out on track, and it's all about getting a run through here to make it all happen. There is Justin Wallace, in fourth place, and the train is starting to build up behind him here. It goes all the way back to 8th place and Stephen Varga. So now everybody is pretty much running in a line right now, and you start wondering when you get into lines like this, at what point you decide to get yourself through. A little bit of scraping and damage there on the side for Kobe Jones. That will be slowing him down a little bit and bringing him into the clutches of Ruben Goodall up the inside at Ferradura. Well, someone needs some brush-up painting, don't they, as they go on through. Inside line again here at the next corner. The Laranjina comes up, and this fantastic left, and Jones is fighting this one pretty much too, and then some as well, but at the Beacon of Pato, he's forced him off.
Yeah, that was a bit of contact between the two of them. They kind of merged into the one line on the exit, so that's a position lost for Ruben Goodall now, and he's already on the blower to race control to see what they think of that. But now Jones under big pressure from Stephen Varga. We'll see what Rob Harris can do in the midst of this situation as well. Mr. Rob J. Harris probably streaming on Twitch right now and getting a good exit versus Todd Parks.
Getting a great exit. I have to say, I do love that KRF, the driver's seat livery. It looks so crisp as it goes on through. But here's Justin Wallace under pressure from Christian Smart. Nope, not going to happen this time into turn number one, but the patience game here. They're now starting to really work on it, and Christian Smart is just quietly in the 999 car, just picking up a place here, picking up a place there, not really doing anything too untoward, as there's a little move going in. Ryan Jones around the outside, turns to inside, big slide from Darren McKenzie. Well, the S in Ryan S. Jones does not stand for slow at this moment in time. He's absolutely motoring.
Yeah, great move there. We only caught the end of it, but I'm sure it was a fantastic move around the outside of turn one to gain those two positions. Meanwhile, Jamie McKnight starting to bear down on Hayden Veld and Ben Christensen. McKnight's last lap time was a 1 minute 33.601. It was a 33.683 for Veld and a 33.583 for Christensen. So these guys are all pretty close on times. McKnight just needs to hit his marks over the next couple of laps, conserve the tyres, make sure that he doesn't get too many off tracks, and he should be right on the back of this top 2 battle.
He certainly should. He's been getting a lot of practice in. He is a veteran V8 champion, which is a 14-plus league category, so he definitely knows how to run around this place as Jamie McKnight. A lot of experience under the belt. But here is Wallace, here is Smart, and Smart's got a really good run on the race on Oscar. Has to go to the other side of the Harvey Bay Autoglass sponsored car, trying to get on the brakes into turn number 1. And again, it's a case where Christian Smart can't pick the pocket. He's trying to open up this turn 2 so he gets the best run possible through turn number 3. They fight behind as well. Goodall there, I think, has just made a mistake.
Yeah, just a little bit of a mistake there from Goodall. That's put Rob Harris right on the back of him as another attempt by Christian Smart to go up the inside of turn 4, but Justin Wallace is really wise to him at the moment, covering him off nicely. Rob Harris, meanwhile, losing out the position to Ruben Goodall. He had a good attempt at that move.
And there's Varga trying to get through on Kobe Jones, but Jones, I think, has just got enough to hold the place for the time being. Oh, isn't he being resolute and effectively just holding everybody in the train up at the moment? Here is Kobe. This is going to be some tough battling here to try and deal with, going down the hill and back up it again here in terms of the run to the Bico de Pato, and it's not going to be close enough yet for another one of the new recruits at the 2 Ezy Finance United Sim Sports team. Nothing doing for the time being as they go down the hill once more. Lap 7 of 22 going to be put in the books. They're going to go on to lap number 8. And talk about drives we haven't really talked about. 10th and 11th, they're looking good as Mackenzie and Mogridge now starts to fight 15th and 16th. Haven't talked about these two drivers much. Todd Parks and Sebastian Flock having pretty good runs of things as well, 10th and 11th, and Mez in 12th.
Yes, indeed. Sebastian Flock there doing well in 11th, and Simon Mazzomo in the Fitstye Motorsports car, as we see a bunch of people suddenly go for the pits. Jones, Varga, and Goodall all in.
And this will be an early stop for Kobe, knowing that he's got a bit of damage and he wants to get out and away with it as soon as possible. And a missed box, that just makes life worse, doesn't it? A missed box never helped anybody as they go on through. Here's the top 3, though. Veld right up behind Christensen playing the waiting game, but they now have unwanted company, a little bit of baggage on the back, and it's Jamie McKnight in the 027. That would have been the last thing they wanted, and that is just due to the fact that McKnight is able to hold more consistent pace.
Yeah, and it's all about consistency around a track like Interlagos. There's so many corners you have to navigate. There's a rise and a fall in just about every one of them. So you have to hit your marks perfectly if you want to get a good lap time. And it's working out really well for Jamie McKnight. But Ruben Goodall and friends are now out of the pits and getting ready to go. It looks like Goodall has managed to pip Jones and Varga there as they come up to... I believe that might be a lapped car. No, it's Tyler Blackburn who's suffering a couple of issues out there, losing positions. And I don't know if that's due to the fact he might be carrying damage or maybe just letting them go so he has a gap when he comes out of the pits himself. On for the lead, though.
Well, Hayden Veld again decides to just lift out of it, just wait, as Ben Christensen is being forced to lead this one from the front. And, well, it was very, very presumptuous to say friends after what happened between Goodall, of course, and others. I believe Christian Smart has just dived down into the pits then in the Synergy Sim Racing car. So Smart then dropping down the times and looking for a good strategy. But there you can see him right now in bay number 21, looking for this strategy to work. And also his teammate, Todd Parks, has decided to dive down in on the lane as well.
Indeed, they have, and filing down the field as Goodall, Jones and Varga pass them out on tracks. Looking at the pit stop times, it seems like Ruben Goodall's stop, by far one of the best we've seen so far. The fastest stop so far has actually been Stephen Varga, 10.3 seconds. Goodall did it in 10.5. Kobe Jones, I think, thanks to repairing a bit of damage, 11.2 seconds stopped in the box.
Yep, and that's why he's dropped a little bit further behind in terms of that battle. But Jamie McKnight, we see this one from inside the car right now, trying to get as much as possible, using all of that AstroTurf on the outside. You don't get an incident point for that, but it is part of the circuit. The rise up the hill once again, and now any takers for any takers here on lap 9. You can go short, you can go long, but I think these front three will be looking at just trying to sit and wait, and there goes Hayden Veld. He's had enough of sitting and waiting. He's going to force the hand of everybody else.
Yeah, well, it looked like Ben Christensen had gotten a bit of a gap on him down the straight, and Veld at that point realised, you know, there's not much chance. I'm going to keep harassing him. Might as well jump in, get some fresh tyres, and see what happens. Undercut him. In front of Mitchell McLeod, we have more drivers coming in, and that's going to be the way of things for Sebastian Flock, I think.
Certainly looks that way. So into the pits, Andrew Mogridge comes in. There is Sebastian Flock in the Gone Rogue Motorsports car. Ruben Goodall sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:32.880. There's another thing they have to be concerned about, and that is if that undercut is really paying dividends here from those in the Goodall pack. Of course, they pitted quite early here in this race. Christensen's doing 33.8. By comparison, that is a second a lap slower than Ruben Goodall and co. So that's going to be not long you have to stay out then before you could be falling back into their clutches.
Yeah, you can't afford to stay out too long in a situation like this, and we're about to come up to half race distance as well, so that would be an opportunity for those drivers up front to come in. Veld has managed to come out just ahead of Harold Stadler here, and that's down around the 12th position area, 10th position or thereabouts, and we'll see what kind of times he sets coming out of the pits, because Christensen and McKnight have both decided to dive in.
Well, they had no choice. They have to cover Hayden Veld. They're racing for the win, and they are racing for that one golden ticket. So Justin Wallace will inherit the race lead then in the machine right now that he is piloting at this moment in time. But now here is Hayden Veld. We see going through the final couple of corners and needs a good run here onto the straight. Grant Keynes goes by at this stage. Ryan Jones stays out, as does Mitch McLeod in the talking car. But now here's Veld. Oh, big opposite lock on the brakes. He is pushing. There is Christensen. That's what he's racing against. He needs a good run here through turn 3, but I think Christensen's going to try and push his way up to speed. Hayden Veld's going to get a great run here, but it's not going to be enough to get by. Christensen has well defended that position.
Yeah, that's excellent there from Christensen, and that mistake from Veld into turn 1 would have helped him a bit as well. So that's the gap then. The top 3 stay the way they were before they came into the pits. Ruben Goodall, meanwhile, he's on a great run at the moment, because Kobe Jones really under pressure from Steven Varga and getting slowed up as a result of that. It's allowing Goodall to get away slightly.
Well, you can see on the brakes through the right, which leads down to this long left-hander, which makes every second just a painstaking chore to try and get the power back on again. And then the brakes for the Beacon of Pato, where we have seen moves done in the past at that corner. Jones is playing the game which many drivers do not like, and that is Schrodinger's overtake. He must attack and defend at the same time here, Reese.
Yeah, he must, and that exit from Jun Sao is going to help him a little bit versus Varga, but here is where the draft is going to come in. As we briefly take a look at Ryan Jones, he's moved up into position 2 now on track, thanks to everyone else pitting, and position 1 too, yes. So Ryan Jones is the only car that has yet to pit now. And have a look at Christensen. He's now coming under massive pressure from Veld. That lap that Christensen spent on those cold tyres, well, Veld already had them warmed up thanks to a lap racing, and they got a bit of traffic as well, but it gets out of the way quick sharp. So now the battle for the lead is back on.
Mrs. Jones, get the camera. You will never see Ryan that far up too often in terms of Simsbury broadcasted events. But at this point in time, Ben Christensen has mirrors full of Hayden Veld. They've dealt with the lap traffic fantastically. And this is going to be a tough little battle that's going to be going on. And they will just wait and wait and wait in terms of trying to make this one work. Down the hill they go, and here is Henry King under pressure, the other ANZ Motorsports car, boss of the HJ racing team, and he's trying to fight around the outside of Mazomo here, and it's a case of does it work? Well, a battle of the SCOPS admins ends up in, or the former SCOPS admins, ends in Mazomo picking up the win as the former safety car driver last year.
Yes, indeed. Mazomo with a lot of on-track experience in SCOPS, you could say, from his driving of the safety car last year. But he does enjoy having a bit of a run competitively as well. And worked out really well for him that time around. Director J's also pointed out that the year before, Mazomo crashed into the safety car. So he's been very acquainted with the safety ahead of the field. Mitchell McLeod making a move on Tyler Blackburn into Subida dos Boxes in his pursuit of Sebastian Flock. It looks like just a yield there from that machine. Bit of damage being carried by the 537, but McLeod doing very well at the moment to advance up from his lap 1 spin.
You know what they say, you hit the safety car, you become the safety car. That's sort of what happens here in SCOPS. But ultimately here, that is Rob Harris up through into 14th position, chasing down Mitch McLeod for 13th. Tyler Blackburn just playing the patience game, I think, around this circuit. Here's the battle a little bit further forward between Goodall, Jones and Varga as they go on the brakes down the hill once again. And it seems like Ruben Goodall and Kobe Jones, they cannot separate themselves at this moment in time. And car down in the lane. That is a very battered and bruised Cameron Dance.
Yeah, and he's off the jacks now, but probably a lot more damage to be repaired for that thing. Cameron Dance did not have a great lap 1. He was involved in the incident down at turn 4, so he's already been carrying damage for some time, but something else has happened to him out on track, and that means that he may just take no further part in this race. At the very least, he's going to be finishing way down. Ryan Jones has come into the pits meanwhile, so that releases our 3 leaders here on screen into the positions they were before. So the battle can properly resume now. Lap 14 of 22. Let's see what Christensen can do.
And what's really, really key here in terms of this battle is that Christensen did not need to get by Ryan Jones on track, which would have made life doubly difficult for him in terms of this one. But Hayden Veld has just been managing this race from second. There is Henry King looking at trying to defend from Sebastian Flock, and well, Seb Flock is going to try and herd away to get around Henry King, but he's not finding any of that at this moment in time as they head on the Reto Aposta all the way to turn number 4. He looks for the brakes and does not find it.
He did find a bit of locking up, though, which kicked up a bit of smoke, but that battle continues, and if there's a problem for anyone in front of them, it's going to become a battle for the top 10. There goes Flock up the inside into Ferradura, and it looked like that was a pretty easy move done, but Henry King is going to come back at him with the under. Goodness me, using all of the curb and then some, but I think Flock is going to have the advantage coming into Pinheirino. Once you're on the outside turning in there, there's not much you can do aside from mess up your throttle application and continue going side by side, apparently. There goes King through into position again.
Oh, it's not guaranteed. Hulo down the hill, and that is Flock trying everything to hold station and gain the place, but Henry King around the outside again. He'll have to look and be careful here. A few technical issues then going on for Sebastian Flock, but ultimately Henry's just got it done.
My goodness, it only took him the better part of a whole lap to do. So now he is through. He can focus on the clear track ahead of him. There's no clear track ahead for Hayden Veld, though. He's got a Ben Christensen still in the way. But Christensen, you notice, turning in a little bit later for turn 4. That can help his tyre life somewhat. The battle behind them as well for P5 back. Goodall versus Jones. This is massive at the moment. Stephen Varga still sitting behind them. But for Kobe Jones, you get the feeling it's only a matter of time. He's really harassing the back of Goodall.
He certainly is, and this is going to be a key little fight. Goodall is defending here into the right, which now leads through the Pinheirino here, this long left-hander, and now you start to wonder here, is this a case of consolidating position. They are about a couple of seconds close, but look at Hayden Veld for the race lead at this moment in time. It looked close for a moment, but ultimately it does just open out a little bit then on our timing and scoring. So Christensen here's got to be a little bit careful. They're starting to close in up on each other, and look who's been playing the patience game just behind. It's Jamie McKnight in the 027.
Yes, indeed, and this will probably work out really well for him if Christensen and Veld come together. There's no chance of that happening down at turn 1, still line astern. It's a real patience game because, as we've seen with the battling just before, you're in a battle situation, you can have a chance to fight back at just about every corner. So if you want to make a move, you have to time it right. You've got to do it down at turn 1 or down here at turn 4 if you want it to stick.
I also saw something happen in a GT race once upon a time around this place on the last lap where two teammates decided they, in order to keep another driver behind, they'd go side by side for the entire lap so there wouldn't be a space. So that's another strategy that could be implemented, but doubt we'll see that today. Here's Mitch McLeod, and is being chased down at this stage here by Sepp Flock. In fact, he's got through on both of them, so Mitch is flying.
Yeah, he is, and up into the top 10 for his troubles. Oh, okay. That, I just missed that. Whatever that was. We'll get a modem simulation replay and refresh all of our memories. It was Henry King that we were riding on board with, and looks like something happened to... Oh, wow. I think he might have locked up there, all the way on the lock stops, and good recovery, I have to say. It's not easy to recover a slide in one of these things.
Well, he drives a Pro 2 truck pretty much everywhere when he's got his spare time, so he knows all about drifting, does Henry King, so he's done well to save the car in that scenario. But that does put him back with Rob Harris and Dan Hetterscheid and all of those drivers, so that will be a little bit concerning. This is Kobe Jones trying to get the run here in the ANZ number 2 here, looking to try and get as close as possible to making this one stick on the inside of Ruben Goodall, and he's got a little bit narrow there on the inside. Wasn't sure he was going to have enough room there, so ultimately has to back out of it, and now it's advantage 868 Stephen Varga.
Indeed it is. We'll see what happens down at turn 4. He smells blood, does Stephen, down the straight, and looks like Kobe Jones has managed to cover him just for the time being, but that's given Ruben Goodall some breathing room, and with not many laps to go in the race, that's crucial. Kobe Jones won't be able to make up that gap unless Goodall makes a mistake.
There's 5 laps to go when they get to the start-finish line. At the moment, though, the gap started to increase at the front to 0.8 of a second. Where's that come from? Hayden, I think, is looking at defense more rather than offense at this stage, because there is Jamie McKnight, and Hayden now is back 3/4 of a second off of the race lead. Suddenly, Jamie McKnight is starting to be an influence. He's got to get the moves done quickly as Jamie. He'd feel he's slightly quicker than these two in front, but he just hasn't had an opportunity to go out there and attack. And, well, if any time is to go and make a move, you feel it's now for the United Sim Sports man.
Yeah, you would. The problem with Veld is he was a bit aggressive on throttle application through some of the slower corners. I was watching the battle, and that's how he's lost out to Ben Christensen. So McKnight, with a little bit of a look into turn 1, still not quite close enough to make the move, but he will know that Veld's tyres are a lap older than his, and there'll be a bit less left in them. So McKnight, crucially, has a bit more up his sleeve.
He certainly does, but he's running out of time. He's got 5 laps, or now 4 laps and a little bit. They close back in up again, using the draft to advantage here on that back stretch. This is a really interesting track to try and work out on set, because you've got a very quick section into a very technical section into a very quick section. How on earth do you set up one of these?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because it is a very varied circuit. It depends quite a bit on mechanical grip through sectors like this that we're seeing McKnight go through right now. You want to try and set up a car with softish springs, I'd say. Keep up the mechanical grip through these slow corners, and you also want a car that is stable on the brakes, because there's some very long braking zones down into turn 1 and turn 4.
There are. So you really need to make sure that everything is working in the car. Up the hill through Junsao, the junction corner, and this is a good run from Hayden Veld here on this lap. He's starting to claw the gap back down again, and I wonder at what point you start to get aggressive. Do you start attacking here? Do you start making lunges for the inside? Hayden's going to have to try and look to the inside if he wants it, but he doesn't just yet. So he's, again, plays that patience card, decides, you know what? I'm right there. I can make the move whenever I want to. This is a case, Ben, of you have to keep looking in your rearview mirror, hoping that the day does not come where I get the move down the inside. Look at Christensen using all the curb and then some. He's got to be careful about using too much.
Yeah, but the track is very forgiving there on the exit of turn 3. Also noticing that Veld, once again, on the throttle application out of turn 2, he had a bit of oversteer. So that rear end dancing around a bit too much for Hayden Veld's liking. Christensen's strength here is on corner exits.
It certainly is, and we are seeing that in full force at the moment. Battle also going on for 8th and 9th position. It's 1.2 seconds the margin if we can flick on back. This is Tom Parks versus Simon Mazomo, and Mez is having a great run today in the TechSense Fitstyle Motorsports machine. Tom Parks, a good run of his own, little bit committed, going up through the horseshoe corner, Ferradura, and ultimately everywhere he's trying to gather it back up in the 040.
Yeah, he is, but Mazomo with the pace advantage. He was 0.3 quicker than Todd Parks on the last lap. Have a look at that. Henry King with some more adventures now. He is side by side with Daniel Hederscheid, who's recovering from a penalty and having to go defensive now into this right-hand hairpin. Henry was the first car to pit, remember, so his tyres are beyond shot now.
Absolutely they are, and nose to tail again they are with 3 to go into the opening section once again. Hayden Veld almost needs to be within 0.3 of a second through the junction corner to have any sort of realistic chance of sending one down the inside of Ben Christensen. So it's close here. You can see it again. Gap comes under 1/4 of a second, and on the brakes they go through the fog here in the early morning of Interlagos. Once more, not much. Dips a couple wheels off there at the turn 4-5 section. And now Hayden starts to think about the outside line. No, not going to be the easiest place to get it done at Ferradura. It's not a traditional overtaking opportunity.
Not traditionally, but you can see drivers fire one up the inside into there. It's a narrow bit of the circuit, so you really need to plan the move out. So they got to navigate the hairpins once again, single file, and it looks like this is one of the places where Christensen really has the measure of Veld. But wait until they come down into Mergulo and Junsao. Wide line from Christensen. He straightens out the exit as much as he possibly can, and that's going to make his exit from Junsao fantastic, I can imagine. A little bit of a twitch from Ben Christensen, but the second phase of the throttle application favors him.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, this is going to be very good. They're closer than they've ever been, and Veld, I think, is going to be well and truly in the draft range now coming into turn 1.
Oh, here we go. Hayden's got to think about it. Ben goes defensive then on the inside. The 53 trying to get the move done on the brakes. Christensen's better, but he's gone too deep. They touch each other then, nose to tail, as they go through side by side. The door! And off goes Hayden. Around he goes. Christensen says no love lost. But just like that, Hayden Veld's shot of a golden ticket goes away.
My goodness, that was almost like Max Verstappen and Esteban Ocon in 2019, 2 going into 2. It does not work in the first sector of this circuit, so our pole sitter Hayden Veld just battered out of the running here. Replay then of the move. Veld went for it around the outside, and he almost got it, but Christensen covered him off really nicely. Veld's thinking, okay, now I got to go for the over-under. Christensen is still there, though. Veld turns in. Christensen's on the curb. Well, 2 into 1 just does not go.
And the stewards will also be having a little look at that incident. Maybe does Christensen get anything for that as he holds 0.8 of a second over Jamie McKnight. There is where Hayden Veld is now. He's in 7th position. That promotes Justin Wallace onto the podium. And now Ruben Goodall and Kobe Jones and Stephen Varga, they all fight for 4th, 5th and 6th. The sun comes out not tomorrow, But today, at this stage, with Mazomo and Parks, they've changed positions. Mez is up into 8th place in the 5-1-5. But there is one more lap to go here for Ben Christensen. He's got a gap of 7/10. Jamie McKnight needs the lap of his life, Reese, if he's to catch.
Yeah, that he does. The gap across the line is 0.6 of a second between the two of them. Into turn 1 then for the final time. Nice and smooth from Christensen. McKnight, oh, he is going to be raring to go for this position because he knows that Christensen might be carrying a little bit of damage, might be a little battered. Meanwhile, for 4th and 5th, Kobe Jones has the run on Ruben Goodall, and this is one of the best chances that Jones has had all race. Christensen and McKnight then into turn 4. What about Jones?
What about Jones as well? Thinking about it, not in position. Through 4, they both run wide as they go on through. That's not ideal at all as they make the progress then and try and make sure that everything is playing out the way that they want to. Racing incident called between Veld and Christensen. But now look at this from Jamie McKnight. He is plonked himself right onto the rear here of the Pixelsaurus car. And now you start to wonder here for the ANZ Motorsports machine, is this going to be a case of holding, or has Jamie McKnight just played this one absolutely magnificently? Justin Wallace is just a little bit too far back, 1.5 seconds. But Christensen on the breakthrough, Junsao. How good is your run, Mr. McKnight? It's looking good, but what a drive off the exit Christensen's having. It's going to be close here as they drive to the line, as they go through the Skidados boxes and Arki Bankadas as well as they make that push. Here they're going to come over towards the line. It looks like Christensen's got enough. It looks like Christensen's got a golden ticket.
Excellent job from Ben Christensen there. Held off the attack from 2 drivers for the majority of that race. Well done to Jamie McKnight on securing 2nd as well. But I think Hayden Veld is going to be wanting a lot better from that one. Ruben Goodall ultimately winning the battle for 4th, with Jones finishing in front of Varga as we have more cars coming across the line.
Yeah, we've got likes of Mogridge and Stadler. They're trying to get themselves over to the line late here in this one, and they're all trying to do this nicely. Yeah, all nice and calm there. Stadler finishing behind Mogridge, but there is a golden ticket for someone who very desperately needed it today. Ben Christensen really ruined his pre-qualification times, but what a time to come up with the goods and pick up race victory here in Super Split 2. Confirmation of results then. They're going to be up on your screen right about now, question mark. Probably sometime soon. But it is Ben Christensen who picks up the race victory overall in this one. 22 laps worth of racing action, and did so with some brilliant action out there on track, with Jamie McKnight 2nd and Justin Wallace in 3rd position. Ruben Goodall will take 4th out of this one, with Kobe Jones in 5th place and Stephen Varga there in 6th position for the United Sim Sports team. Hayden Veld ceremoniously dumped out of the battle for the race lead in a racing incident there, which leads to 7th position overall, with Simon Mazzomo for Texense Fitstye in 8th place. Mitchell McLeod, good run from the talking driver. He gets 9th place in the number 40 car, and Sebastian Flock, if a gone rogue, has gone and rounded out the top 10.
Started from 14th too. Good run from Flock. Rob Harris in 11th place after starting 15th. Daniel Hederscheid got a penalty early on, but he's fought back to finish in 12th after starting outside the top 20. Henry King comes home in lucky 13th position ahead of Todd Parks. Andrew Mogridge running at the top 15, with Harold Stadler coming behind him in the Texense Fitstye Motorsport Commodore. Grant Keynes and Christian Smart 17th and 18th. We saw some great performances from Smart early on, but he couldn't quite capitalise. Darren McKenzie and Jason Fewens round out the top 20.
And now flip over the page. We've got drivers a lap down or worse here. Tyler Blackburn there, finishing 21st. Ryan Jones, I think, got caught speeding in the lane, and that's why he dropped all the way back down to 22nd position in the number 11 machine there. Shame he did have a lap in the race lead, so at least he can have that to take away from what was a good race by his standards. Vincent Skilbeck, then for the Wheelie Beans Mayhem Republic, gets 3 laps down. Cam Dart out of the race. So same could be said for Chris Coxhead and for Jacob Knight. And then, of course, you got the fantastic team that works on the safety cars, Simon Black and Nick Parker then who have done a brilliant job. Do have a driver waiting for interview. He's picked up a race win. His name is Ben Christensen. Now, Ben, it's safe to say that you did not like pre-qualification and you couldn't find much pace. You thought you were safe and you needed a couple more tenths of a second to try and get yourself into the main event. So you've had to do it the hard way today. And I think that that's probably one of the hardest races you'd find, having to deal with at least one vehicle behind for every single lap.
Yeah, it was. I was pretty lucky actually. The car, I've had a bit of a history of average launches lately. Got the launch, and the intention was lead from the front, hopefully, and do what we can. But having your teammate right behind you, pluses and minuses. I feel really, really bad for Hayden. I actually had a low fuel alarm go off and kind of freaked a bit, and we probably should have given each other a bit more room. So it's bit unfortunate, but yeah, it was certainly the hard way.
Well, the hard way, but let's just talk about what happened then in terms of the late stages. You had yourself to worry about, but it wasn't just Hayden who was maybe a challenger for you over the course of the race. Of course, you had the likes of Jamie McKnight who kept you honest throughout the entirety of the event for United Sim Sport. So was that maybe a case of just trying to get your head back down, get back into the rhythm after that incident and just race on like nothing happened?
To be completely honest with you, I was watching the relative board for about half the race. I saw Jamie there. I made the call in Discord after about 5 laps. I said we need to try and drop him because, well, I mean, we all know Jamie's a hard racer. I didn't want him within a second and a half. I knew that was striking distance for him if he could smell blood. So yeah, after the incident, it certainly got the heart rate up a little bit, knowing that I didn't quite have the confidence in the car. It's probably not set up the best of the setup I used for the cold weather. So I was certainly monitoring that gap, and it was pretty relieving to get the power down well out of the last corner.
Long night ahead of you then. You secure your golden ticket, you move over to the main event, and you get yourself a couple or a 2-stop race coming up in the not too distant future. So in terms of what this does for your championship, I know you're fighting it out, trying to get inside the top 25, top 20, top 15 if you're really lucky. Is this really the result that you not wanted but needed out of today to now give yourself that chance to score a lot more points than you would have done otherwise?
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, any time that there's more points on offer, it's always a good start. I just got to try and keep my head down, keep it clean, and get those points. Scrap for every point we can, and hopefully we can pull off a pretty good result at the end of the year. We've also been looking at the team's results as well, so we're keeping a close eye on all of that. So every point certainly counts.
Every point matters, but before we let you go, Ben, you've got yourself an opportunity which you very seldom have. Shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
Massive thank you to Ultra Murrayfield. They've supported us all year long. We've also got Jinx Shifters on board. Simon over there at Jinx has been helping us for about half the year, making very good product, helping us all out. And of course, Henry and Brett. Without those two, none of this would have been possible. Henry's always over the strategies, making sure, even when he's racing, making sure we make the right calls, and Brett makes some pretty killer setups for us to try and make sure we make it to the end in the best place possible. So yeah, thank you to those guys.
Ben Christensen then picking up the race victory then over the course of this one. But we will be back in just a couple of moments' time, ladies and gentlemen, because your main event is coming up after this. It is going to be your fantastic racing action here in V8SCOPS. It's Split 1, and it is going to be absolutely furious.
The field is rolling on the back straightaway.
Get ready. This is going to be tight.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got really outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this, your virtual racing school V8SCOPS 2020 season. It is the greatest place to race when it comes to Australian touring cars, and this all becomes a case of what can you do, what do you have, and how important has this season been. We've seen Super Split 2 action. We now move to the main event and some amazing racing that is going to be coming up for all of you. My name's Jake Sperry, that's Reese Gardner, the Southpaw Racer, alongside me as always here with a SimSpeed TV presentation on the iRacing Esports Network. If you haven't already, make sure you like, share and subscribe. We've been a little bit lax with that as of recent. We need to get to 45,000 subscribers so we can hit 50,000 in the not too distant future. So with that all in mind, it's now time to think about, okay, what's next? Endurance Cup's come and gone. And now I think it's about time we look at the standings, see how everybody has formulated and funneled out in terms of everything at this point in time here around what is a fantastic racing circuit here at Interlagos. And there you can see the difference maker here with all of the drop rounds put into play. 138 points for Madison Down, and of course missing the opening round of the season as well with those 138 points of a lead. That is pretty convincing at this moment in time, Reese.
Yeah, absolutely. Forza El Narbi had a massive charge at the end of the Bathurst 1000, but of course, Dane Warren and Madison Down coming home with the victory there. And Madison, being the former champion of the series that he is, he knows what it takes to get to the top and stay there. And it's a great position for him to be in as we come into the last couple of rounds. James Scott, meanwhile, won the first round of the season at Montreal and stayed in the championship lead for the majority of the season. But now, thanks to the drop rounds and thanks to better fortunes of others, he's moved down to 4th. Harley Haber back to 6th. So I reckon probably out of that top 5, Andrew Gilliam is one of the surprises for me. He's had a fantastic run this season, taking his debut victory at Mosport, and now in 3rd place in the championship, but he's got some pressure from James Scott.
He certainly does, and I think you also got to say how good of a run it has been for the likes of, say, Richard Hampstead, who is up there in 9th position, has done wonders with not having as many starts as the rivals around to pick up those points and do a good job with them, as well as Kurt Stenberg and Michael Taliancic there in 8th and 10th. Thomas Hinz as well. Just consistent drivers. You find the finish, you find the points and results. Worth noting that Haber and Hinz are tied on points. You can put Harley Haber into that as well. Just picking up consistent results here and there. They get you points in this championship. There, of course, was a lot of questions around how Ross Rizzo once upon a time got 6th place in the championship. It's through this method which Hinz, Haber, Taliancic and Stenberg have all masterminded.
Yeah, and that is staying out of trouble and making sure that you get the points home to the finish. You can always count on those guys to still be cruising around at the time the checkered flag falls, no matter what happens. So it's definitely paid off for them in terms of the points. In terms of the Endurance Cup, however, we were a bit, there was a bit of a question mark over it as we came out of Bathurst, but these are the final confirmed results, and it looks like it's a Trans-Tasman 1-2 in the Endurance Cup standings. Madison Down and Dane Warren in the 77, and Hampstead and Maloney in the 28. They took the win in all 3 of those races, with Evolution Racing Team 117 of Greg Galt and Caruso. A very good job there in 3rd. Only 2 points, though, separating them from a 2nd place.
But the big number that needs to be taken from this one, Reece, and I'm sure you'll agree, is 114. That's how many points Forza El Narbi has lost to Madison Down over the course of trying to deal with that. And if we take a look at what the championship gap is at the top, it's 138. If they'd managed to take a few more points away and really get out there, be aggressive and win a couple of those events, that gap wouldn't be 138 points. Oh no, it would be only a mere 20 points here in terms of the championship push. And tonight is now going to be a really different battle that we're going to see. Borzan now has to pretty much make up for 2 races where it didn't go right for United, and he's got to do it all on his own. So now this becomes a case of must-win races from now to the end. And in terms of now to the end, let's have a little look at the schedule, see how everybody stacks up and what we've got. So now, tonight, we have, of course, Interlagos. And, of course, the schedule has changed. Next round will be the Belle Isle Street Sprint, but it's now pushed back a little bit. That will be coming up about a month and a bit from now on November 4th. And that's going to mean something very interesting, because the round after that then becomes a back-to-back before we head ourselves over at Spa-Francorchamps, which is the second of the Driver's Choice rounds, and then, of course, the season finale, which is at its traditional home here with SCOPS, Road America.
Indeed, excellent place to finish off a championship. Always enjoy Road America, but Belle Isle has been moved because if it was on its original date, it would clash with the NRL Grand Final, and we don't want that. We want people to be able to take the time to watch their sport and not have to deal with a sim race at the same time. So, good job there by the administrators to change the schedule. It's obviously been a tumultuous year with everything that's been going on in the world, as I'm sure you're all aware, and everyone, including professional sporting organisations, playing it by ear at the moment, so we have to as well.
Absolutely, and of course, there's a lot of things that can change, will change, have changed over the course of this season. That includes driver pairings, driver lineups, who's been going to what team, all of the kit and caboodle that has gone along with all of what has been happening. We are in practice at the moment. In about 12 minutes time, we'll be heading over to 20 minutes worth of qualifying. Everyone's going to be on track at the same time, and everyone's going to be pushing to try and find the best possible result that is available to them around this place. But Reese, you now have to start thinking about, okay, what's going to be the key then in terms of who finds what? Currently in practice, it is Jake Maloney in the number 29 who is up at the top of the timing stands at this point in time. There are no guarantees, of course, that those times from pre-qualification are going to accurately reflect what happens in the racing, but there have been a number of drivers who have been really impressing over the course of this one. One that I've definitely got my eye on, 233, Philip Worley. Hasn't he just gone through the ringer in terms of improvement?
Hasn't he just? Part of the simrigs.com DPR team. And now he's put himself up into the top 10 in a practice session. Philip Worley's form at Bathurst as well was really something to behold. I would say he's definitely gone for the improvements over the last couple of rounds. An improvement for Richard Hampstead, meanwhile, just going to the top of the timesheets. A 33.193 is now the fastest lap. That's going to be one of the benchmark times here in qualifying. We've seen drivers do 1 minute 32s, but the track conditions are very different to what we saw in Split 2 and probably what we saw in pre-qualifying. It's nice and clear out there, no fog to be seen, and the track temperature is 45 degrees Celsius. So there's going to be a bit of a difference in how the cars drive around, how the tyre cycles through its heat.
4 Trans-Tasman drivers inside the top 7. Richard Hampstead, Jake Maloney, Madison Down, and Jordan Caruso's James Scott puts the Altus 088 up into second position in practice. Now, there's a lot of hoo-ha and hullabaloo about, oh, we're definitely not a stagnant team anymore. Look at us, we're doing well. Point to be made here is this: they're getting to the crunch time, and the moment that Madison started to pick up results, started to get victories, started to have Richard Hampstead there as help and Jake Maloney giving him as much as possible, you now get Emily Jones in the races, you now get Sean Kelly in the races, you now get these drivers in the Trans-Tasman team who are absolutely fantastic in terms of helping out Trans-Tasman get themselves up to the top. It's a lot different when it comes to practice, having only 3 people helping you out than, say, having 6, 7, 8 people helping you out. Every hand helps, and I think that what Trans-Tasman's done over the mid part of the season is that because they have really ramped up their practice and their efforts here, Reese, wouldn't you say that they are now reaping the rewards of what they have sown?
Yeah, absolutely. Reaping the rewards is a great way to put it. I mean, this car is one of the cars on iRacing that takes the most effort and the most time to really get a handle on. The drivers that drive these things quickly have been doing this for years, and they spend the majority of their free time on the sim as well. Madison Down, of course, who we're looking at on screen at the moment, winning the official iRacing V8 Supercar Championship 10 times. So that's obviously a great thing to have as part of the team, but more hands make light work. And Trans-Tasman Racing and teams like Evolution Racing Team in the past as well, Altus Esports too, have shown that that works.
There you could just see there on the 77 a red banner across the top of the car. That indicates that he is the championship points leader. It's very much like the cap system that you find in the IPL cricket, where you've got the leading wicket taker has a hat, or maybe even the leading run scorer has a hat as well. For those who are maybe joining us at an unseemly time in the morning, cricket is one of those sports which is a little bit different, and it's effectively like baseball, but isn't. That's the best way to describe it. But at this moment in time, you start thinking about, okay, it's not just all about the championship when it comes to here. You've also got those other little battles, those other positions out there, as Forza El Nabi sets the fastest time in practice to say, beat me if you can. You've also got to think about the likes of, say, those who are a little bit further down, who will be looking for time here and time there, especially in that mid to late pack. I know that number 4 has just gone and moved teams. I got a message at about 2 o'clock in the morning about that from Clint Shane Smith. So Clint's gone team changing, no longer is he part of the Premier Racing team. You can see he's got the AOX sponsorship. He's in the Adrad car at this stage, and will be looking to try and get as much as possible out of things here today.
Yeah, Clint has been one of those drivers. He's made a few appearances this season, and he's shown consistency. He's had a couple of runs in Split 2, and he's usually in the midfield to lower midfield in Split 1, and he's had some bad luck over the last couple of rounds as well. But I certainly hope that that he can have a good run today, can Clint, and certainly looking reasonably competitive there versus the drivers further to the back of the field. Another team change that we've had to think about in the last couple of weeks, Jordan Caruso. Remember, he drove the Evolution Racing Team 117 with Greg Galt in the Enduro Cup, but just after Bathurst, it was announced that Altus Esports had snapped up Caruso, so it's another loss for Evolution Racing Team that is Altus's game.
Isn't that the go-to now, though, for Altus? If they're in doubt, or if they're maybe struggling a little bit, they go to the Evolution Racing Team well, and they pick up a driver. They did that with James Scott, they did that with Cooper Webster, and now they've done that with Jordan Caruso. Of course, it's great for the team dynamic, having someone you know very well, but at this point, there's hardly anybody left at Evolution Racing Team that you can really poach, except maybe Ethan Greg Galt, but I think that he's got real-world commitments that take him away from the sim rig.
Yeah, it's not a great situation for ERT to be in at the moment, but I think that that dipping into the pool, so to speak, and picking a driver is oversimplifying the situation a little bit. There's obviously negotiations, there's messages like, you know, this is what we can offer you, would you like to join us? And at the end of the day, Caruso said yes to Altus, so it's a two-sided coin.
Absolutely, and of course, I'm not saying that they shouldn't go and sign drivers. It's more of the point here, Reese, that we talk about that it's 3 drivers in a row, almost it seems, that have gone from Evolution Racing Team over to Altus. My question now is, what is going on with the Evolution Racing Team, and why all of these drivers are suddenly jumping off the ship and moving over? Of course, they've lost Scott Gamble through retirement. Brenton O'Brien's retired as well from the sim as well. So in terms of their team, where they started the year, having a really, really strong division, looking like they could be challengers, now I'm just trying to scour my way through this list here of all the drivers that are here today. I think there is only one driver who holds Evolution Racing Team colours, and that's the 151, I do believe.
Yeah, Benjamin Smith. Only ERT machine in the field. Not on track at the moment. We take a look at Philip Worley, who we were singing the praises of just a little bit earlier. But it is a difficult situation for ERT. You know, the majority of your drivers are now either retired or with other teams. And where do you go from there? Because the Australia-New Zealand sim community, there's allegiance is a really big factor in this community. You've got drivers who like to stick with their groups, stick with their team. So if you're an Evolution Racing team manager and you're looking for new drivers, the places to look getting fewer and fewer by the day. But Evolution Racing Team, generally, they like to go for young drivers. They like to go for that young talent, drivers in their teens who show a great bit of pace, pick them up, develop them. We'll see if that's in their plans for the next few months to next year.
We'll certainly will see that at the moment, as there are the times on the left-hand side. Madison Down has now gone to the top of the times. El Nabi second, Gilliam third. Hang on a minute, this looks a little bit like the championship standings at this moment in time. But everybody's been searching for pace. Everyone's been searching for time. And one thing that we have been noting as well is, well, in terms of the who's moved who and who's moved where, it's all about trying to find also someone who does very well in terms of pace. And the two that I'm looking at now are now 8th and 11th. Damien Johnstone, Jack Boyd, gone rogue Synergy. Christian Smart has joined along with them as well as a bit of a development. But ultimately, that 58, that 033, they are both going to be looking at one thing and one thing only. How are they going to help improve with Synergy to help give them pace? Because on their day, they can go out there, they can challenge for top 10s, they can challenge for top 5s, even on their day, if they get just enough of the luck. And this Synergy team has sort of been on a down cycle, so to speak, and they could do wonders to get themselves up a little bit further forward and doing exactly what is needed to move them to the next level.
Yeah, exactly right. Synergy is one of the long-standing teams in the AusNZ sim community, and obviously they've had their ups and downs over the years, like every team has. But a bit of new talent there with Johnstone, with Boyd, with the Christian Smart as well. I reckon there's good times coming for Synergy because those guys showed they were fantastic in the Gone Rogue stable. They'll be joining the likes of Jordan Ross, who sits there in position 10 in the number 143. Of course, he went to Evolution Racing Team for a while, but then came back to Synergy Sim Racing, and since then he's shown that he has lost none of his pace. But the session's about to come to an end, Sperry. We're about to get into 20 minutes of qualifying, and a little bit different to what we've seen in the last couple of rounds. V8SCOPS this year trialled a split qualifying system, 15 minutes for 20 cars, another 15 minutes for the other 20, but that's not happening here. And this is a short circuit with not much space between the turns, so drivers are going to have to be careful of traffic.
And right at the end, Richard Hampstead says, I am the superior Trans-Tasman driver, puts the car fastest in practice, a 133.008 then in the very, very late stages of this practice session. So everybody's searching for a little bit of something, and these times, of course, in this series, because they have so long to pre-qualify, they are always tight, they are always close. Practice is always going to be one to keep an eye out on, as will qualifying. Who's been saving their pace? Who's been getting exactly what they want out of this Interlagos circuit? Well, time is going to be now. We're going to put 20 minutes up on the clock. We're going to have open qualifying right now, and this is going to be about who gets what. There is the mad scramble out of the pits, and there is the runs now as they try and get themselves ready for outlaps.
Robin Kirk is leading the charge in the 213. Just behind him, Emily Jones in the Trans-Tasman machine. Look at the gaggle of cars coming out of pit lane. They've got a whole lap, 4.3 kilometres, to get the space they need for an optimum qualifying time. But Emily Jones, many times last year, she was at the front of the queue in qualifying. She really likes to get out there and set her times early.
And of course, that comes down to grid slot and grid position in terms of how you get into the server. So that also tells you something else that's very, very interesting. And that is that Emily Jones, she likes to practice here in these sorts of sessions and try and get as much pace as she possibly can. She's someone who, on her day, is a top 5 driver. Her best result is 6th place. in a race, and she can go out there and get those big results. We haven't seen those big results, though, for a little while. Part of that down to the streaming process, part of that, of course, down to trying to have a little bit of fun elsewhere. But, you know, that brings another little question into the realities here, and that is who finds what pace and who's doing well, who's not doing well at this stage. Everybody's searching for a little bit of track space at the moment, but I want to go to Richard Hampstead, Robin Kirk even as well, right at the very front of the pack. I want to take us through a lap around this circuit. Here is Robin Kirk in the 2-1-3. Now, turn number 1. This is going to be very interesting. You crest the rise and you actually have the track fall away from you on the brakes. It's such a tough place to get right. And then through turn number 2, it's all about power as early as possible. Turn 3, keep it nice and narrow through here, up through the gears, 4th gear. 5th gear now starting to hit. Careful on the curb on the exit. And now through to the Ski de Interlagos, the lakeside corner here. Turns 4 and 5 out on circuit through the 2 left-handers, which are so easy to get wrong at the first part. See just a little bit of correction to make sure the car stays stable, and now 5, and now you can go up the hill. Middle sector starts to approach.
It does indeed. Ferradura and Laranjina, the double right-hander, just swing it out in the middle of the circuit in between them, and then instantly back on the brakes for the hairpin section. He uses all of the curb on the inside. Down then into Pinerino now. Goodness me. On the throttle super hard and over the exit curb, instantly on the brakes once more, all the way down to first gear and taking a very tight line for Bico de Pato through Mergulo. Big correction on the steering wheel, ride the curb, stay on the curb, widen out the entry into Junsao and clobbering the curb on entry and a bit of wheel spin on exit. That's going to compromise Robin Kirk slightly. He's only got one proper turn to go here, Subida dos Boxes, and away he goes, flat out from here.
And remember, the track's at 43 degrees. These are going to be 1 laps you feel on the set of tyres. You've got to be good quickly. There's the lap, and that's a 33.4 from Robin Kirk, the first real representative then over the line. Richard Hampstead, keep an eye on these times. Maloney to a 33 flat. Hampstead over the line, 32.8 to the top of the times. There was a time from Richard Hampstead, but Madison goes quicker. 32.818 takes pole position away.
Very close between the 2 Trans-Tasman, well, the 3 Trans-Tasman drivers there on their initial run. We got more times filing in. James Scott has done well for P4 so far. Ross into P5, Haber into P6. El Nabi's about to come across the line now to set his first time, and it's also in the 32s. Just he goes 3rd. But instantly picked by Andrew Gilliam.
Just behind, picks up then that 3rd position, and he's got himself quite nicely in there. Caruso has not set a flying lap as of yet, so we'll be searching for it. This is going to be a little bit awkward here to try and find some laps. Michael Taliancic searching for things. You've got Jordan Ross now into 7th position. Griffin Gardner and David Sanford 8th and 9th. Where's that pace come from?
You what? That is quite the interesting question. Gardner and Sanford both there, and Michael Taliancic running a 33.6 to put himself into 23rd position. But Griffin Gardner and David Sanford have come right out of the box here with top 10 worthy times. That's interesting.
Wow, they really do love their time. So there's Benjamin Smith, the sole ERT machine, 33.7 over the line, goes 27th position behind Kobe Williams, the youngster, trying to get a good run here today. Now here's Damian Johnstone out there looking to try and get a lap in. Of course, it gets a little bit tougher here the longer that it goes in qualifying, because you get this iRacing dynamic track which comes into play. All the rubber of these 41 vehicles running around this circuit, it gets laid onto the circuit. It makes life tougher. It makes life a little bit more difficult. There's a level where it grips up, and of course here, Reese, there's a level where it falls away.
Yeah, and that's due to the ultraviolet light hitting the racing surface and heating up the rubber so it gets all slick. You want the track to be a little bit cooler than this for optimum lapping conditions, because in conditions like this, it's really easy to overwhelm the grip of the tyres. Jack Boyd's just gone across the line for 33.6, puts him outside the top 20. So now everyone's coming in for the end of their first run. No escape rule is active in V8SCOPS. If you're new to this series, the drivers have to bring it into the pits when they've done a run.
Car number 21, return to the pitch. Your qualifying is over. That is Harley Haber, who will have no more laps. He will start from 10th place and no better.
So what's gone on with him there? Harley Haber's just come to a stop up at the in the S's section. He's managed to bring it into the pits. So I don't know what the deal is with Harley.
I think that may be a penalty for an incident somewhere out on track. We may have to go searching and foraging for a little something there for Harley Haber. Michael Korolev did not sound best pleased over the radio communications there to try and have a conversation with Mr. Haber. You must stop. And this was the sort of thing that would have worried a couple of the stewards coming into this season. Harley Haber, of course, has served a 1-year suspension in this series already after a few shenanigans here and there. He's on the straight and narrow, you would have said, but getting caught up in incidents is something that never strays too far from the tree from Harley Haber.
No, and I've just gone back to have a look at what happened, and it looks like he got a bit up close and personal with Sam Blacklock in the final sector. They were fighting over track position. Haber really asserting his place, or attempting to at the very least, and I think that might have been what brought him under fire from race control. But we've got the second lot of timed runs starting now, and leading the way is the 012 of Jordan Caruso,
who's just come across the line and set a time of 33.3, goes 15th fastest then in the Altus Esports outfit then. And Altus here are struggling a little bit. They're 6th, 11th, 12th and 15th at this moment. Someone else there is Jake Maloney, who's currently on the lap in 5th place, but has an Altus Mustang in front, which is never the nicest sight in the world when you're trying to set a lap having someone in front, because you always want to try and find that improvement on pace. That's not doing well. Someone we haven't really talked about here over the course of this qualifying session was completely absent for the Enduros, Sam Sutton, One Performance Racing.
Yep, back out on track in the number 12, and down in 17th at the moment is Sam. He's just on an outlap at the moment, I think, just gearing up for another timed run, letting drivers go. And, I mean, you see that Christensen as well, winner of Split 2, letting people by as well. Jake Maloney had no luck getting by the Altus Mustang and immediately elects to bring it into the pits. But looking at Sutton going slowly out there on track, it really hits home for me just how cluttered and how compact this circuit is. You really have no space out there on track. Every time we look at someone, there's someone else in the frame.
Absolutely. There is the pole sitter at the moment. Madison Down, 132.8. It's a 1-2 at the moment for Trans-Tasman. It's also known as a 2018 specialty, as it was, because Trans-Tasman used to be 1, 2 and 3 almost all the time in that era, and maybe we're seeing a renaissance of that. Over the line, nothing doing this time to find those improvements, but every driver's searching for what they want. It's a 33-1 from Madison Down. Worth noting, there's no guarantees here that these times are going to work, of course, in the conditions that they have here today. Just looking at the weather conditions right now, the track is partly cloudy today, so if there becomes a little bit of cloud cover over the circuit, backwards 017.
Oh, yeah, that's Brian Borg there, the Premier Racing Team Mustang, travelling with his rear end in the direction of running of the circuit. He'll be looking to bring that to a stop, probably request a tow from race control.
Well, it depends if we can get it going. We'll catch this one on the Motum simulation replay then. And has gone backwards, was already behind there at turn 3. One of the Trans-Tasman cars coming out of the pits there, just about managing to avoid that. So this is what's happened to Brian Bugg. He's just tried to get on the power. He's gone for an expression session and the back stepped out. And you are not going to... Oh no.
That was Emily Jones there that clobbered him in the rear, so she's going to have to bring that one back to the pits as well with a smoking engine. That's very unfortunate. No, actually, she brought it to a stop. Oh, no? No? Hold up. Well, we'll have to wait and see how that one's turned out, but Brian Borg showing that turn 3, Curva do Sol, is not easy in these cars. You get on the throttle a little bit too hard, that 650 horsepower is going to overwhelm both of the rear wheels.
Yeah, we catch another replay then, moving a little bit further forward here in this one, and hopefully back to live pictures right now, as I believe we do have them. So Brian Borg's been able to get the car going again, and they continue on then in this qualifying session. Emily Jones has been able to bring the wounded Trans-Tasman car. You can tell it's Emily Jones because there is Emery Green on the wing mirrors right there, able to pull it in. Was that into box? Ooh, I think you can get away with that there, pulling it into the pits, but not necessarily into the box. So that will be a reset and get that going again. There is Andrew Gilliam, third position, and someone who I think has really started to say that he belongs in the discussion of best drivers in this series at the moment.
Yeah, and his performances this year just show that. As I said before, took his first win back at Mosport, and he's shown up on the podium a couple of times since. So Andrew Gilliam, he's been knocking on the door for a couple of years, setting great times in the practice sessions, and he's done very well to bring that into other aspects of his race performance as well. What's happened to Andrew Dyson? P9.
He's gone up to P number 9 over the course of this qualifying session. So Andrew Dyson's found something then out on track. The number 41 Simrigs.com DPR car has now got itself inside the top 10, and this is now going to be a very, very interesting race. Andrew Dyson is probably the epitome of consistency.
Yes, indeed. And remember, he took the first Split 2 win of the season down at Montreal, so he knows what it's like to get up the top of a championship like this. Having some technical issues there as we look at Andrew Gilliam completing his lap. Can he improve on the third position that he has? Out onto the start-finish straight he goes. 32.968 is the time that he's got to beat, and gain 400ths to Pip El Nabi, but he's not going to even get into the 132s. It's a 133.009 for Andrew Gilliam, and it shows here, Sperry, something that we've seen many times this season. Your best laps are usually set at the start of the session.
Morzan has gone quicker, though, has jumped up into third place in the 097. We do apologise for the strobe lighting effects, I think we're going to say that is at this moment in time. But Forzan El Nabi in the 097 jumps up into third place, and that is exactly what is needed in terms of that lap working out for him. Make sure that the main rival is right in front of him when he gets to the start. But we've got 6 minutes, 20 seconds remaining here on the clock, and just jumping into the top 10 is now the 215 machine of Sam Blacklock.
Yep, Blacklock bringing his Altus Mustang into the top 10. And Blacklock was the car that Haber was having some trouble with before. So good to see that Blacklock has been able to jump into 10th. And speaking of Haber, this recent run of lap times has put him down into 12th position. So not a great start for Harley, but for Sam, I think he'll be very happy with that lap.
Yeah, they're looking to try and get a really good run of things at this moment. This is a very, very close qualifying session, as is traditional right now, as drivers dive down into the pits on a regular occasion. Now, here is Emily Jones. What can she do to move up into the top 20 potentially? Nope, going to dive down into the pits as well. That lap not good enough to make anything happen, and this is where it gets really difficult in terms of trying to gear up the lap, because you need the life in the tyres, but you can't run at a really, really slow level around this place. You have to still run at something, and it was something that I saw Madison Down doing. You say you have to run at about 80% of what you're capable of on the outlap to really give you the best possible chance in the tyres, to give yourself the best chance of tyre temperature, and to give you the best possible run.
Yeah, exactly right. The tyres, the way that they work. Oh my goodness, yes. Tom Freer up into the top 10 as we focus on Kyle George coming into the pits. But Freer, once again, out of nowhere, and one of the pursuit guys, Andrew Gilliam and Michael Taliancic, have got a team with them that really shows potential in that top 10.
Of course, you've got the likes of Griffin Gardner there, Tom Freer having a really good run. Now, Tom Freer is someone who's very interesting in terms of a character. He's someone who's now taking all the pressure that he's unloaded on himself on the start of the season and gone, right, just another race, just try and get the best result possible. And sometimes you need to be a psychologist in terms of trying to pick up those results. There's a reason why when you talk about people like Peter Bonington, for example, at Mercedes Formula One, how they don't just have to be race engineers, really, Reece. They have to be psychologists as well.
Yeah, the psychology is the largest part, I think, of motor racing. It's not just about, maneuvering an automobile in a very quick way. It's about fighting against the people around you, thinking, what are they going to do? Do I have what it takes to fight with them? And having someone in the box with you and encouraging you along is always a plus. Glenn Postlethwaite sets a 1 minute 33.5, and that's going to put him into 25th position. Excellent job there.
Excellent job from Glenn Postlethwaite. Another big plus is the Swiss flag, but that's a different point entirely. But this, at this stage, is Brady Myers. Maybe a little bit off the pace here today. Would have been expected to be challenging the likes of James Scott up there in 6th place, but is down in 14th. Has had a lot of running and a lot of practices. Remember, this has been a very tough week for drivers trying to put together everything, because there has been an iRacing Bathurst 1000 to contend with, which Brady Myers has been right up near the pointy end of.
Yes, indeed. Of course, we talked about playing things by ear just before, and unfortunately, the iRacing official Bathurst 1000 taking place on the same day, so a lot of drivers here tonight feeling a little bit fatigued, I think, after driving their way around Mount Panorama. At the very least, they have a little bit more room around Interlagos than up the top of Mount Panorama. Let's see what Andrew Dyson can do, see if he can improve on his 10th place.
Well, he's done very well to actually get back into that 10th place, so Andrew Dyson's finding time and needs to in the DPR car at this stage. On the brakes into Desquita de Lago, turn 4, heavy over that inside curve. That will be a little bit concerning there, how aggressive you are being. And of course, today is a very, very long race that they have to deal with. It's 58 laps race, so maybe you can't win this race on qualifying paces, as we see Corey Shepherd in the Premier Racing team looking to try and get a run in the Mr. Antenna sponsored 718 over the line. That's a 33.398 over the line. That moves up 3 places, goes to 18th place. Every position matters, but maybe we are seeing here that this race might just have to be won on the strategy. It's not a guarantee. El Nabi's gone even quicker still and still can't get by Richard Hampstead.
The top 3 are all in the 1 minute 32.8s, which just goes to show how close they are on time. And of course, El Nabi in the Mustang, interestingly, for this one. He usually drives a Commodore. Let's see if the change of car model results in a change of spirits for El Nabi. Andrew Dyson, meanwhile, pulled out of the lap that we saw him on to let a couple of cars by. Brett Loxton looking to improve, though.
Yep, in the Zuba Racing car, he's doing well. Sean Kelly jumps up to 9th place then. It seems like everybody wants a 9th position in this one. Jake Maloney has jumped as well, above Andrew Gilliam into 4th place, but Loxton abandons the lap then, and will look to gear up for potentially one more out there on track. We don't have long to go. You got 45 seconds, but crucially, Reece, when the timer expires, you are allowed to finish the lap you're currently on.
Yeah, that's it. In these open qualifying sessions, you do have that extra grace period, but you have to make sure that you cross the line before the clock hits 0. Drivers like Jack Boyd here, they are not going to be able to get another lap in, or maybe only just. Boyd looking to improve on an 18th position, and only 20 seconds left on the clock. He might make it across. He will get through, but I don't know if he's going to elect to do another lap. This might be the best we see from him.
Well, coming over the line, 7, 6, 5. The line will come up about here. 4 seconds is over the line now, and that is a 33.3 from Jack Boyd. The timer expires. I think it was the car behind Jack Boyd, which is the last one over. Jordan Caruso jumps to 7th then, late in the session, just as the timer expires. What a time. Jordan Ross then out on a lap. This is where you start getting those last gasp times coming in on the board. There's clearly something in this track which allows you to find a little bit more here and a little bit more there. It does bump down Jordan Ross to 8th, Gardner to 9th, and Sean Kelly outside of the top 10. Nothing Jordan Ross can do in a Synergy Sim Racing car. Has to take over to the lane. Who else is going to try and get some times in? There's Benjamin Smith in the Evolution Racing Team car. He's having a good qualifying right now. He's ahead of Adam Briggs in 16th position, so he's really doing well. There's Damien Johnstone, though, just behind in 27th position. That one also being dived down onto pit lane. There's the Exto Gaming car of Kenneth Latter. Of course, no Corey Preston. He's out for the rest of the season. But there's Job Stewart diving down into the pits. A lot of drivers choosing to dive down in. That's Clint Shane Smith who's taking that plunge into pit lane. And one of the Zuva cars there, that will be Brett Loxton down in on the lane as well. Nobody able to find times apart from Jordan Caruso. What about Philip Worley? This looks like diving down onto the lane as well. Sam Blacklock in 13th. Don't count him out. He could find a little something. Has some toe to go on the straight as well. And this is also down into the lane. There's one driver who's gone to finish a lap, felt that they were quicker. Was that Taliantich? No, it was Glenn Postlethwaite who goes to 29th position then in qualifying. No improvements there. 6.8 tenths off there in terms of that one. But that is pretty much everyone across the start-finish line. Well, the grid, well, it comes up to you on screen right now, and the championship leader has pole position. Madison down, 132.818. Only 300ths clear of his teammate Richard Hampstead in second. Remember, they will fight for those places. They fought for it at VIR. Forzen Onabi starts this one from third, with Jake Maloney in fourth. 3 Trans-Tasman cars inside the top 4, with Andrew Gilliam in fifth and James Scott in 6th position. Jordan Caruso starts from 7th, with Griffin Gardner in the Burst Esports outfit in 8th position. Nice to see them having a run today, with Synergy Sim Racing's Jordan Ross 9th and Sean Kelly making it 4 Trans-Tasman cars in the top 10.
Excellent stuff from Trans-Tasman. Tom Freer is the next pursuit car, starting from 11th alongside Mr. Dyson from DPR. Sam Blacklock makes it the 3rd Altus Esports car in 13th place alongside David Sanford. Harley Haber starts alongside Benjamin Smith, 15th and 16th for those guys. Adam Briggs and Brady Myers on the 9th row, with Jack Boyd and Corey Shepherd rounding out the top 20.
And then to 21st, it's the blackjack position for Brett Loxton, with Job Stewart having 2 little ducks in bingo's turns in at 22nd. Philip Worley and Robin Kirk make it in allsimrigs.com DPR, row number 12. Sam Sutton for One Performance Racing starts 25th, with Emily Jones in 26th position. Damien Johnstone has the driver who is 10th position in the championship behind, or next to him, in Kurt Stenberg, Glenn Postlethwaite, and then the driver who is 7th, or tied 6th, in the championship, Thomas Hinds, there going from 30th.
Jared Philsell's teammate from the Enduros, Kyle George, is going to start from 31st position. Geordie Sinney in 32nd. Reese Keane and Kenneth Latter, DPR and Exto Gaming, on the 17th row of the grid, with Michael Taliancic, the manager of Pursuit Sim Racing, starting from 35th alongside Neil Pearson. Kobe Williams and Brian Borg share the 19th row, with Ben Christensen, winner of Split 2, starting from 39th, alongside David Mulqueen, rounding out the top 40. The final car on the grid tonight, Clint Smith in the number 4, starting 41st.
And these drivers will be getting themselves up on the grid. Here's the track temperature. It's gone down a little bit. We're just after 2 o'clock then in the afternoon, so it's going to only get cooler from here. Track temp's 39 degrees. We've got 245 kilometers worth of racing here. It's a 58 lap race around this place today, and this is going to be very, very well fought for. You got the championship leader on pole position. You got everybody looking to set themselves up and get themselves ready. This is about who wants it, who needs it, who gets it around this place. Everybody knows that run to turn 1 is going to be treacherous, and some drivers in this field know what it's like to be on the wrong side of an incident here at Interlagos. Just ask Emily Jones when she went cartwheeling over the opening stages of the first lap a couple, if not 1 year ago. This is now about who's got what. This is now about mentality. This is all about grit, determination, and who can keep their nerve in the late stages of a championship. There's 130 points of margin for Madison down. He knows he's got drop rounds in the pocket as well, which could go to help supplement. But drop rounds are drop rounds. This is all about getting the best result that you possibly can. You will see those drivers who are starting maybe around P20, P25. They'll have a downhill start. Someone like Madison Down and Richard Hampstead, they'll have an uphill start for this one. It's going to be a tough start here to get it going, and here is said start as they get themselves underway and all look to funnel for position. Looks like Madison Down did okay. Hampstead didn't though. There's Jake Maloney. There's Forza El Nabi. Maloney with a start and a half.
Whoa.
And look at the swarm of these TTR cars. Gilliam forced to the outside, and that's going to allow, I think that's James Scott going through up into fourth position. They all negotiate it through cleanly, but what a start from the Altus car there in fourth position. Some side-by-sides with the best esports car there. Griffin Gardner looks to try and have a good run, and now third place being defended by Forza El Nabi. This is a really manic start. They go to the skid and bang! There goes, I believe that is Sam Blacklock across the circuit.
Oh, that is huge. Big incident further back in the pack. Tom Freer and Sean Kelly got poor starts off the grid, and that ultimately concertinaed everyone into each other, into those ultimate turns on the circuit. So Griffin Gardner now to the back of the grid. Sam Blacklock and Andrew Dyson finishing up the order. Harley Haber started from the pits after everyone else had gone, so he is now out on track all the way at the back.
He certainly is, but we'll get a little bit of an advantage with a couple of misdemeanors then in the early stages. There's Maloney in second, there is El Nabi in third place, and there is Andrew Gilliam in sixth, who's now lost the place to Caruso. James Scott has lost both those places from fourth, now back into seventh place here is James Scott, so really not exactly ideal. Talk about big gainers and profiteers off the start. Benjamin Smith up into ninth place.
Great job from Benjamin. He's doing extremely well right now, but he has got a huge line of cars behind him. Tom Freer just up ahead, but then he's got Kelly, Myers, Briggs, Boyd, Stewart, Shepherd, an entire line of cars all the way back as the first lap is complete.
Yeah, one lap of the 58. There will be many more on the horizon. Look how much these trains start to go to side by side on the back of this train there as we see them all funnel on through towards turn 2, towards turn 3, and now turn 4 will be on the horizon in the not too distant future as everybody starts to try and work out and settle into a rhythm here into this race. All nice and calm, no moves then into turn number 4. There's a bit of side-by-side in the background there with, I believe that's one of the Zuva cars wants to go through. We'll catch a Motorsport Simulation replay though here, ladies and gentlemen. This is what happened on the start. So it was a great start by Jake Maloney. He got by everyone there that was needed. Hampstead was pushed out wide, but ultimately here, watch what happens to Sam Blacklock. He tries to get through. Griffin Gardner is ending up side by side with Jordan Ross. There's the Simrigs.com DPR car of Andrew Dyson in that as well. They funnel on through towards turn 4. Is this a case of just trying to pick your lane and not having the overlap? So there's Dyson. He keeps the nose in, keeps the nose in, keeps the nose in. And ultimately, that was a little clumsy. Keeps the nose in. 4 dumped to the outside.
Yeah, it looked like Sam Blacklock wanted to try and move over as well to try and cover him off into the next corner. So just a case of lap 1 chaos, making sure that a couple of races are ruined already. Jordan Ross, meanwhile, trying to fight back here side by side with, I think that's Michael Taliancic in the 777. But up the front, Jake Maloney holding on to second, Forza El Nabi and Richard Hampstead behind though. They are pressuring.
Yep, and that is Jake Maloney in that second position right now, doing well at this moment in time, having a really good run of things right now, and this is where all of the money needs to be found. He's got the fastest lap of the race now, and Forzan has got to try and stay on the back here and keep himself relevant in this race. You can't win this one from here, but you certainly can lose it if the pace is not quite up to snuff, I think is the right way to say it here. So now everybody's starting to think about, okay, what's the fuel strategy going to be today? What's going to be the ideal time to come in and pit and get my 2 stops out of the way? Who's going for the early stop? Who's going to go for even stops? Who's going to try and go for that very short first stop to be the first taker on the lane? There you can see on the brakes behind Tom Freer is Sean Kelly in 10th position. He wants through, as does Myers, as does Briggs and Boyd and Stewart and Sutton and Shepherd there on the back, all the way to 16th place this one goes. And look at that down the inside. Boyd's going to take a little bit of a lunge. Not Boyd, sorry. Yes, it is Boyd actually making the lunge and trying to gain the place back again.
Yeah, well, Adam Briggs covered him off nicely into Mergulo. I'd have to say, though, Benjamin Smith, who was fighting in this pack, he's managed to get by Tom Freer and is starting to gap him already. So now Freer is serving as a bit of a cork in a bottle here, keeping everyone behind. Kelly and Myers fighting hard then, coming into the first couple of turns. This might be a move. We'll see what happens. Myers in the draft doesn't have a look. At this point, the drivers are just looking to get into the rhythm, as you said, Sperry. They don't want to be going for those banzai overtaking moves right now.
Nope, not right now, especially when they know that if they get it wrong, they're going to be dropping a lot of positions out here on circuit. So they have to be cautious. They have to be careful about the way that they operate here in terms of this one. And there's a look down the inside then. Talking about that, Brady Myers is having none of it. He's through. And look at this on the exit then. A little bit of contact as Adam Briggs tries to follow on through. And now Boyd's going to want to get in. Are we 3 wide here to Ferradura? This is going to be brave. Has to back out of it slightly, but Kelly loses out then in terms of this one to Adam Briggs.
Oh, he's
outside
like engine.
Engine goes for Sean Kelly.
And that was on the downshift coming into Ferradura. It's down into third gear. You're braking from fifth, so the revs go really high in the braking zone. And I think that is what popped Sean Kelly's engine only a few laps in. That's a big shame for Sean after starting in the top 10.
Now, will this be a safety car here on lap 4 for the blown engine of Sean Kelly? We caught it live as the request for the tow is granted, but here is this at this stage. Are we going to try and get ourselves going through? The 0-1-2 will want to try and get aggressive here. Jordan Caruso on the back of Richard Hampstead, who's really dropped back then off of the front of this at this stage. So here they go. Little look, not quite there just yet.
Not quite, but Richard Hampstead, you can tell, is really falling under pressure now on this 5th lap of the race. Andrew Gilliam has been monstering the back of Jordan Caruso ever since the start as well. Oh, the safety car is out, and it looks like that was a move just completed there for Brett Loxton.
And that's crucial as well, gaining that place when the safety car came out, but I think he's going to give that one back then because he wasn't too sure about where they were. So the safety car is out then on lap 5 out of 58. And look at this then, a couple drivers came down in. That was a penalty for Kobe Williams. Michael Taliancic, not as such.
Yeah, so Michael Taliancic has gotten a potentially really good run here. He's able to pass the safety car and get himself back onto the lap. As Jordan Ross exit the pits, we see Neil Pearson jump in as well. Our race leader, Madison Down, is currently making his way into Mergulo in the last sector, so we can definitely expect these guys to jump on into the pits.
Well, this is going to be interesting here. It's a free stop, essentially, that they've got at this stage, and this was something that wasn't exploited over at Mount Panorama Bathurst by the majority of the field. This is what Madison is doing. He's pushing hard over the course of this stint to make sure that he's going to get himself that free room, that range to stay in front of the stop.
Oh.
No, he stays out. So we're not going to be seeing that. I think pit lane is effectively closed as they chase up. And if they want to make that call, I think those drivers who were in the pits were in before the safety car was called. So that will be something worth keeping in mind. Actually, one taker coming in. It's Sam Sutton who's decided, the only one performance car in the field today. He is the only taker deciding, I want 5 extra laps, as in fact here come more from the back half.
Indeed they do. More cars down onto the lane, and those particular cars, Blacklock, Dyson, Ben Christensen as well, Damon Mulqueen, all on into the pits, and it looks like that's Taliancic coming in as well.
Who's gone backwards that far?
Okay.
How do you miss your box by like 54 meters and then overshoot the box again? That is a maddening moment. Get the camera on. I want to know exactly who that is. I think that may be Griffin Gardner. No, it's not. It's Brian Borg who's gone and got it all wrong then. He had a horror show in qualifying and then he's missed his box by 3 light years.
Yeah, it's a big shame for Brian, but fortunately, it being safety car conditions, he's not going to lose as much time as he would under green flag, but still, not a nice thing to have happen. It's always a source of frustration, but I'm going to backpedal on my previous remark, expecting the top drivers to all come into the pits. No, I think for these guys, they are looking for the ultimate strategy over the full course of the race. Drivers like Madison Down, well, he had a great lead coming through that initial opening stint, and he'll want to consolidate that. Once the safety car comes back in, he's going to be right back on it, trying to extend the gap and go for a pit stop maybe a bit later on.
Yes, and I think now is the time where they want to save some fuel and bring themselves in line with strategy over the course of this one. This is where Sam Sutton has come out after that stop. He's in position 31 out on track, which isn't the end of the world for Sam. He'll have maybe 6 laps fresher tyres, and he'll have this run under safety car conditions, which aren't really going to be using the tyres too much then around this place. So we'll keep that in mind as they look to go on through. The safety car will continue on around, but I believe here this is going to be something very interesting right now. So this is confirmation of how the field stands at this stage. Madison Down leads, Jake Maloney second, Forza Elnabi crucially in third position. You got Hampstead, Caruso, Gilliam, Scott, Benjamin Smith, Tom Freer, Brady Myers, your top 10 as things stands here at Interlagos.
And you see the real traffic jam coming into turn 1. The safety car's going around at about 90 kilometers an hour, and all the way back in the back of the field, they really have to slow up as a result. Back into the pits for more damage repairs. I think that's Jordan Ross there in the Mustang, and away he goes off the jacks. He's going to be sitting there for a little bit longer yet.
You certainly will. Any damage repair is going to be good. It'll be helping with the fuel consumption. I tell you what that iRacing really does need. They need to have people running out and putting all of that like gaffer tape over the cars to make sure it all sticks up. As you all, of course, you know, Reese, gaffer tape fixes absolutely everything.
Yeah, absolutely everything. I got some gaffer tape fixing my headphones right now.
I believe that gaffer tape will fix my relationships, but that's a different point entirely. Richard Hampstead, 4th position right now in the number 28 machine, is having a really, really solid run off that stint. We'll start to drop back off of Forza Elnabi, but he's got one role over the course of this restart. Coordinate it with Maloney and Madison Down, attack Forzan early.
Yeah, Forza Elnabi is at a big disadvantage here up in the top 4. It's 3 against 1 in terms of team allegiances. But we know that Elnabi can carry the torch for United. He has in a few rounds previous. I don't expect any different this time around. But I think Elnabi would probably have a bit of a tougher time if Hampstead was ahead of him, because we know Richard Hampstead, one of the staunchest defenders in this community. So I think for Elnabi, really, it's all about timing the start and making sure that he stays with Down and Maloney. And looks like we are going to get a start because in comes the safety car.
Exactly. Madison Down's in control of the field. He can choose when to go. Forzan's got to react and has got to react quickly here. This will be a long hold through the left-hand corner here. Up at the Skidados box, there's an Archibankadas here, which is the first left, which is, of course, the scene of where that 2003 Formula One crash happened, which brought out the red flag and gave Giancarlo Fisichella his race victory. There's the go, and that is a good go there by Madison Down. Has got himself the jump on Jake Maloney as much as needed as they now look to try and get the run. How has Hampstead's run happen? It looks good. He'll dive for the inside. Forzan's got to try and cover this one on the inside, but Hampstead is there. Inside at turn 2, though, goes Forzan's way, but the long turn 3 is all Hampstead. He's up over the curb very, very much. Jordan Caruso would want in on this one as well if he finds some space, but now Hampstead's got the trifecta at the front, but Forzan's not giving this one up.
Hampstead absolutely nailed the braking zone. Forzan, a bit of contact. Jordan Caruso got into his rear, so that means Elnabi has to go wide and lose 2 extra positions. No, a bit more contact. Hampstead and Caruso come together, and they were tagged. Oh no, Caruso's turned Hampstead around at Ferradura. That's going to be a dangerous re-entry. Oh, into Elnabi goes, into James Scott he goes.
And round goes Richard Hampstead. All of that in reaction as they go on through. Hampstead able to get back going through, but the stewards will have a good look at that one because there were many, many factors which were the cause of that off of the restart. No, Mark Scaife, it wasn't the redress that caused it. It was all of this as they went on through. So there's Elnabi running wide. Now he's looking for a little bit of room here on the outside. He's trying to get through. There's Caruso who's just trying to lift off of it. He gets a nose to the inside, but that was covered a little bit there by one Mr. El Nabi, who's got no room on the exit. Gilliam sticking his nose down the inside is impossible, and effectively Caruso gets himself stuck on the outside, but that is a poor rejoin there. You have to hit the brakes if you're Jordan Caruso at that scenario, and there's nothing you can do when you're skating at a point of track like that. If you're Richard Hampstead, how on earth are you meant to slow it down on the inside of Ferradura?
Yeah, there's just too much grass there, and the amount of speed Hampstead was carrying meant that he just could not slow it up in time to make a safe rejoin, and ultimately that means that he's got a huge amount of damage now on that number 28 car, and I'm sure he'll be keeping a bit of an eye on the engine as well.
He certainly will. This is now a little bit of issues. There's the 35, which is running without a bonnet right now. That's Job Stewart, who's not looking good as they go through. The Zuva car then, side by side. That's Brett Loxton and Damien Johnstone. And this is some Noah's Ark racing here. They're too wide, too deep, because you've got Glenn Postlethwaite there in the Synergy car. He wants to get a buy on Emily Jones, and she's not having none of it at this stage as she goes up and around looking to go through. But Loxton's so slow on the exit here of Ferradura, puts Postlethwaite with a chance here, and this is what pack racing's about.
Oh, not that, though. That's not what pack racing is about. Around goes the lot of them. Emily Jones was taken with that as well. So that was a bit of a botched move on the inside coming into Pinarina there. Emily Jones still at a standstill. No, she's managed to get it going again. That's a big shame, though, between those drivers. And oh, there's a blown engine. That's Hampstead. Hampstead has blown his engine, and I think he's out of this race now.
And that could be another one. It's another Trans-Tasman car that has blown its engine. Look at Hampstead, though. Doesn't want a safety car. He pulls it right over to the side of the track, as close to the marshal's post as possible here, to make sure that he is off and away from the racing line, that the track's safe, that he's able to get back going and racing again. Into the pits comes Jordan Caruso, and now that would have been in reaction to hearing that there would have been a safety car, unless that's the drive-through penalty. No, that's the drive-through penalty then for Jordan Caruso, who comes back out in 22nd. I expect we stay green, but ultimately, here's the 707 car, Tom Freer and Brady Myers.
Yep, 6th and 7th between these guys, and Myers holding on well in 7th place. It's been a good run for him, taking advantage of others' misfortunes after starting from 18th. Tom Freer as well made up a few places, started 11th, now in 8th position. He's got Jack Boyne behind him, who is missing a rear wing, which is not going to help his balance in the corners, but I'm sure that he'll be able to find a way to drive around that. They got Adam Briggs with them as well, the battle for the last few positions in the top 10. Up the front, though, those two Trans-Tasman cars are holding station really nicely. Madison Down and Jake Maloney flying in formation, with Andrew Gilliam up there in 3rd place, and El Nabi not able to make any response at the moment.
That looks like a battered 088 that we've got on screen right now here, under pressure. This is James Scott, and he's got Kurt Stenberg. Stenny will want to go and try and make this move as quickly as he possibly can here. Up the hill, you can see down in a straight line here is James Scott. He's trying to nurse that car to the pit so he can get the stop. So who's doing what, who's got what? And I think here that's someone diving down onto the lane potentially then. In the early goings, but I think we're okay for the moment. Another position goes on the straight. There goes the 910 of Kyle George. What a start Kyle George has had. He's already up into 14th place.
Yeah, it's been a great run from Kyle George in the 910 after starting just outside the top 30. One of the few cars left in this field without any marks on him. He is the biggest mover. There's another position lost for James Scott. That is going to be Corey Shepherd making his way through on the inside line in turn 4. So James Scott has got a very difficult job ahead of him now, especially with Thomas Hins now behind him and making the move. I don't know. I don't know how long James Scott would have to sit in the pits to get that car fully repaired, but he's obviously elected that it's not worth it. He's defending from Hins, though, around the outside, and got the inside for Pinarina once again.
Ooh.
Just keeping the position.
For the moment, but now Thomas Hins has got to battle with his best friend in the world, Harley Haber, around the outside as he goes on through, and I hope you can get my sarcasm with that, but ultimately the 52 holds on.
Ultimately, only just, but I think with Haber's aggression, It's only a matter of time before he lines it up into turn 1 and taking the wider entry into Jun Sao. Tries to get on the throttle nice and easy. He's in the draft, and James Scott's lack of straight line speed showing once again. Hinz and Haber going to have to go to his right. And coming into the first corner, Hinz goes defensive on Haber. You can see that Harley was trying to get up the inside, but Hinz made him go the long way around. And can Haber actually hold on for that? Hinz with a bit of a slide on the inside, but Haber has the advantage into turn 2 and just covers him off coming into Curva de Sol.
Brilliantly done then. Harley Haber picks up a position. Time to go chasing at this stage as now everyone starts to funnel through. Here's a look down the inside then. Tom Freer is going to lose out then to Adam Briggs in the number 72 DPR car. So just like that, Adam Briggs into 8th position. Talk about people who have gained. Benjamin Smith is now in 5th place.
And this is his first ever solo V8SCOPS race as well. So Benjamin Smith having a brilliant time out there at the moment. Started in 16th and now up into the top 5. Another big mover in this field.
And also, you got to keep focused on who's in 3rd place right now because it's Andrew Gilliam. Oh, car around, it's Kobe Williams.
Yeah, Kobe down there at, that's Pinerino. It's going to have to give some room to the Zuva car and try and defend that position. Looked like it might have just been a spin there for Kobe. Bit of a rookie there in V8SCOPS, and Adam Briggs's next target is Jack Boyd, the wingless Jack Boyd. I see a slight difference in straight line speed between the two of them, but Briggsy not far up enough in the draft to go for it at turn 1. There's no way you can go that far back, unless, of course, you're Richard Hampstead on the restart. That's what he did to Forzan El Nabi.
That he definitely did. He came from a long way back to make that one happen, but for the time being, Jack Boyd is looking like he's going to have to try and keep in his mirrors Adam Briggs, but that's going to be difficult because the number 72 is not going to want to sit behind very long and wait. It's worth noting that gap between 2nd and 3rd is down to 1 second, now 9/10 of a second at the moment there towards the front of the field. But this battle we focus on right now is between these two, and of course Tom Freer behind as well, as mirrors full of Damien Johnstone, Jack Boyd's long-time partner in terms of running around in endurances together. So what can those two do? 7th and 10th, this is what you would call a career best run for these two drivers right now.
Yeah, for sure. They're doing really well, especially considering that this is a solo race as well.
Johnstone.
Oh, yep, up the inside there of Tom Freer at the hairpin, and through he goes. That was a nice, clean move. Jack Boyd is doing very well to keep Adam Briggs behind him, though. They just come through Jun Sao there. And oh no, that's an issue there for Jordan Caruso, having to go wide through Mergulo, the number 71 car, up the inside and through. That is Sam Sutton. An extra position for him, but probably not for long because Caruso's pressuring him now up the inside.
That's actually not Sam Sutton. He was just behind. That was David Sanford. They were trying to get through. So Sanford there on the outside in a bit of trouble here. He's going to get the run here. Who's going to be latest on the brakes? Answer to that one then is both of them as they go in towards turn number 1. Sanford trying to hold the outside. He's going to run wide. The Burst Esports car, Griffin Gardner, wants in on this one too. But Sutton now gets by as well on Sanford. And now Sanford's going to look at Griffin Gardner and go, yeah, that's Burst Esports colours. I can't argue with that. Through that one goes. There goes the Holden. And now every position is looking like it's mastery. Here's a little flash of the lights from the 72. Down the inside, trying there at Ferradura. Don't often see that one happen. Can't quite get it done.
Yeah, and Jack Boyd stays ahead for a couple more corners at least, but that's bringing Damien Johnston and Tom Freer back into this fight. It's a 4-car chain now between all of these drivers. And Briggs, oh, whoa, have a look at Johnstone. He almost went for the move there on Adam Briggs, but not quite enough space to get it done.
Nope, not enough space, but ultimately it was close as they go on through. Now I want to have a little look up at the front of the field to the first, second, third and fourth. They're all split by 2 seconds at the moment as they come towards the stripe. There is Jake Maloney in second, and not a million miles away is Andrew Gilliam and Forza El Nabi. Now this is where you need a friends, you need alliances. Andrew Gilliam, of course, is third in the championship. Forza El Nabi, of course, is second in the championship, but both would love to get by Maloney and Madison down. There's a look into turn one. Adam Briggs finally dispatches of Jack Boyd and picks up the place, but the key is Damien Johnstone, of course, who was through on Tom Freire, is now on the back, and I'm sure the two teammates will understand. Boyd's a little bit damaged. Johnstone's got the better shot of getting a good result here in this one, but look at Jack Boyd try and come back.
Yeah, very late on the brakes, almost giving Adam Briggs a tap into the braking zone, but just keeps it behind. Good stuff from those guys. Adam Briggs now has the clear track ahead of him, and he should be hoping that he won't be harassed by Boyd much any longer through this section of the circuit. We'll see how Adam Briggs goes.
It's looking good from Adam Briggs, getting nice and all gathered up on the brakes into the next right, which leads to the Pinarino here through the long left-hander, down and up the hill again as they start to attack and start to work on, okay, how do we get the next place? There is the very patient Damien Johnstone behind, and this is Kurt Stenberg here fighting for 11th place. Philip Worley has got to really play a defensive game here in the 233 Simrigs.com DPR car. There's Job Stewart behind with no bonnet on the front of that, engine exposed for cooling reasons. I'm sure he will like to try and deceive and bluff in terms of that one, but for the time being here, Stenny wants to get into 11th. There's your leaders coming through, 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is not what Trans-Tasman want, because if Gilliam and El Nabi can get on the back, they're in fuel save city, baby.
Yeah, they certainly are, and that will give them a massive advantage when it comes to pit stop time. Remember, these guys in the top 4 have not come into the lane yet. The majority of the field has yet to come in on the lane, but El Nabi and Gilliam fighting with each other a bit more than they would be with Down and Maloney, pressuring each other really well for the last podium position. And El Nabi looking very hungry on the exit of Descida del Lago and into Ferradura, giving Gilliam perhaps a little bit of a tap every so often. Is it going to be a move up the inside? Yes, it is. Through over the curb. Gilliam has got the outside line, though, and he gets the position right back at Pinarino once again. So El Nabi just showing Gilliam at the moment, look, I have what it takes to pass you, so you better speed up so we can catch up to the leaders here.
But at the same time, they have just dropped 0.4 of a second because of that move down the inside. This is why you have to be clear-cut when you are overtaking. If you can't get it sorted, you're only going to hold yourself up. And Benjamin Smith here, look at him. He's only 2.8 seconds off the back of this group. So he's not a million miles away. He can make himself a presence here in this race in the 5th position, the 151. So do not count this race out. This is not the end of the road, so to speak, right now, where it's top 4 and nobody else. There is Sam Sutton, who, remember, was a pitter in on the lane. He's now up to 19th place and fighting Griffin Gardner.
Yeah, and that's for the last couple of positions in the top 20, and Sutton was ahead of Gardner last time they crossed the line, so there's been a bit of a trade between these two, and it looks like there might be another, because Griffin up the inside into turn 1, a bit later on the brakes than Sutton. He is ahead at the turn-in point. It looks like Sutton just has to yield to him there. Bit of a slide from Griffin Gardner coming into turn 1, but move done nice and clean.
And just in front, there's Kenneth Latta in the Soul Exto Gaming Motorsports car, who wants to get through on the 012 again of Jordan Caruso, who's found a way through. But Caruso, of course, who had to serve a drive-through penalty, will want to be trying to run the gauntlet here today. One position here, one position there. That will be key. Now, here's Kobe Williams after the spin earlier on. He's got Reese Keane in the DPR car just behind, who will want to get through, and the train as well, because side by side, there goes the 41. I think that's Robin Kirk and Ben Christensen. Sorry, no, that's Andrew Dyson and Ben Christensen going at it at the moment. And that is Christensen, the Super Split 2 winner, defending well.
Yeah, very well. But Dyson trying to creep around the outside here, get the inside for the left-hander. He looks like he's done it, but can Christensen hold on, get on the throttle a bit earlier? No, bit of contact on the exit, and Dyson just shoulders him out of the way. But through goes Christensen again, attempted to, but spinner both of them around. That was a bit of a botched move there from Christensen. Dyson was out wide, but there was only one place he was going for. That was the apex.
Kenny with the slide off of the exit there. It was almost the case of running into all sorts of trouble. You always struggle to put the power down as much as possible. That was late in the gears, but ultimately, nope, not going to be able to find a move, I don't think, here in towards turn one, unless Gardner's brave. Gardner's not brave enough, though. He's not going to find exactly what is needed right there at that point in time. Andrew Gilliam, though, he has brought the gap back down again to 9/10 of a second. So all that battling, he has reached back up then to exactly where's needed. There's the car in the lane. That's Reese Key.
Yeah, and it looks like that's regular service pit stop. The pit window is now properly open. So anyone who comes in from this point forward will be able to get home nicely with one extra stop to the end. Sutton might be a bit of a question mark because he pitted really early under the safety car, but he should be okay, only just. So now the thoughts of the leaders are going to turn to when they make their first pit stop. Madison Down has the luxury of being able to choose, but we saw that the undercut was a potential spanner in the works in Split 2. We'll see what it's like here on a hotter track.
You certainly will. Madison Down then, going through lap 18 of 58. They're heading towards that 1/3 race distance in the next lap and a little bit or so. So now you start looking here. Madison Down in control, has led every lap of this race so far. Maloney in second. There is Gilliam in third place, chasing down the hill, trying to stay within a range of the leaders right now. And these four will be hoping that they have what it takes. Not just here for this series, but of course, there are questions on who's getting signed who to the Repco Supercar Series. Thomas Hinds with contact, and there are a lot of smoke coming out of Job Stewart's car, able to hold it up together. He locked the brakes up so much, I thought his engine popped.
Yeah, that can be a bit misleading from time to time. A little bit of a panic moment. Oh no, someone's blown an engine. No, they've just gone close to blowing a tyre. That was a good move there from Job Stewart, now ahead of Hinds down there in the lower reaches of the top 20. In terms of the fight between Jack Boyd and Damian Johnstone, well, they're starting to close up a little bit as well. A bit further up ahead of these guys, coming into the hairpin section now. Jack Boyd has done really well to maintain pace despite the damage that he's carrying.
Here comes Hinsey down the inside, and he can't quite get there in the HJ Ratu car then. So what can he do to try and chase this one down? So you start looking again here for Thomas Hinds in 16th place. He wants to get past Job Stewart in the Positive Sim Racing outfit. And ultimately, he is trying to get there, and he is not there at this moment. He wants that place. He wants that top 15. This is what Thomas Hinds has done all season long. Top 15 finishes that gets him points to be tied with Harley Haber. At this stage, his main rival, who he's tied with points on, he's a couple positions down the road. He'd like to chase that down.
Yeah, he certainly would. Update on James Scott, meanwhile. He has retired from the race, so that is another big blow to his championship charge as we focus again on the battle for the top three. El Nabi right on the bumper of Andrew Gilliam, and he's shown that he wants to get one up the inside, but there is the risk of slowing themselves down versus Down and Maloney as we see the 0-1-2 of Jordan Caruso in the pits, and Sanford joins him, Hinds as well as Kenneth Latter.
Kobe Williams also in there as well, and Ben Christensen decides it's time to dive down into the pit. So it's a pit party. The cycle and the sequence has opened up. Now Gilliam here is under pressure from El Nabi, and El Nabi will be feeling like he is being held up. Surely this now, lap 20 of 58, about the 1/3 distance or just over, is the perfect time to pit.
Yeah, it is. You want to split the race up into three roughly equal blocks of laps, or potentially you could fill up a little more at this stop, go long on the second stint, and get a short fill at the end to get one up on your rivals. So now the leaders come round to pit road. Do they elect to go in? The two Trans-Tasman cars don't, neither do Gilliam and El Nabi, so they're going for an extra lap. Benjamin Smith stays out too in the top five, and I got to say, Benjamin Smith, I'm really impressed with his running so far. He's running times that are roughly equal to the drivers in front of him.
And that's really, really key. Now, here's Tom Freer trying to hold on to the top 10. Phil Worley wants in on this one. Down on the brakes. Has he got it slowed up? No. Back comes the cut up and under. And around the outside tries Freer on the curb every which way. Kurt Stenberg wants top 10'sville if he wants to try and get on through to the number 47 car. Got most starts in this series he has. And now look at this then. Worley getting the toe, getting the big push forward. And that is back into the 707, and that is not ideal. Back to 12.
Yeah, well, Stenny was able to just slip by before the braking zone, and Tom Freer just yielded on the exit, and that is a pursuit car in the pits. Job Stewart, he's managed to get the service done on that one. Griffin Gardner has joined him in the pits as well, so he'll come out just ahead.
Yeah, just ahead and just exactly where they need to at this moment in time as we keep focus on this battle pack here in 10th, 11th and 12th position. Philip Worley putting 2 DPR cars now inside the top 10. Kurt Stenberg wants to make it 3 Trans-Tasman cars, though, inside the top 10. And, well, Tom Freer, who was trying to hold on to 2 pursuit cars in the top 10 now, just cannot at this stage. Going on through into the left-handers and up the hill once again. Any takers for any takers? Oh, yes, Jake Maloney here dropping down the timing stand. So I would assume that, yes, he's down in on the lane. He's the first to dive.
Yeah, and Gilliam and El Nabi just had a big moment in the first couple of turns. They were side by side coming into the braking zone and a bit of a fight for position there. So that's made them drop another second or so to Madison Down up ahead. And that's the advantage that Down will want. He can probably afford to put a few extra litres of fuel in the car at the stop thanks to that.
And, well, here's the issue as well. Because it's Jake Maloney who's made the call to come down into the lane, he's actually just covered off the undercut.
He has. He has indeed. And away he goes out of the pits, past the exit cones, and then through this winding pit exit at Interlagos. So he's going to come out in 19th position, I believe. Maybe 20th. Oh, no. Emily Jones overshot her box. Had to reverse back in. No good for Emily. And Andrew Dyson into the pits as well, but Jones with more time lost, and she'll be ruining that.
Jordan Ross then jumping up to 19th place, past Neil Pearson there in at 20th position. John Stone and Boyd close together on track, as is that top 10 scrap that we see out there on the circuit, which is now for 9th and 10th on the road. Now, surely if you're Gilliam and El Nabi, you have to come in and cover. If you're Madison Down, you have to come in and cover, unless you're going to go for the Ian Ford strategy. But there you can see, all 3 stay out. Here comes Forzan on the warpath down the inside. He will try and get this one done, and Gilliam surely has to yield this one. He tries to hold it around the outside, but he's out of road. El Nabi finally gets his man and up into second on track.
Yeah, brilliant, and that should translate into third when the pits cycle through and they come out behind Maloney. But that's great for El Nabi. He's now able to advance a bit further forward. Johnstone, Stenberg, the number 21 of Haber into the pits as well as Kyle George. Bit of a coordinated stop there from the United squad. But that's going to come into effect for them a little bit later. Meanwhile, Andrew Gilliam, now he is behind Forza and El Nabi. What does he do? Does he back off and conserve a bit? Now, as they come up to the pits once more, does he try and psych El Nabi out, try and go for the undercut, but encourage El Nabi to stay out?
Maybe that could be the case. We also saw Geordie Sinney there in the pits. I finally have learnt, after about half a year's worth of racing or seeing him race, that I can actually say his name correctly now. But there is Geordie Sinney coming out of the pits then in 29th, now 30th position on the road, as at the moment it's a case of who's where at this stage. Madison Down, Forza El Nabi, Andrew Gilliam, who decides for what at this stage in the pit stop cycle at this stage. Bit of traffic in front of Madison Down. This might be the call. It is. Madison Down comes in, and I think Forzan is going to come in, and Gilliam is going to go for the long stop here. So clearly an alternative strategy being run by the 201 team there of Pursuit.
Yeah, okay. This makes things a bit interesting, especially when it comes to the second pit stop later on. Benjamin Smith has stayed out as well. He's feeling good about his pace. Meanwhile, Brady Myers brings it in. Adam Briggs as well into the pits. And I think Myers, he has overshot massively. He's lost many seconds out of that one.
He had to work it out, and I think that was the issue. Now, here is Jake Maloney. This is going to be key. He's had a bit of fresh air because Brett Loxton in front, but he was cleared by a number of seconds here, that number being 6. So Maloney on the brakes into turn number 1. Where is Madison? He is absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, Madison only just went then, so the undercuts worked really well for Maloney, and I think Madison has been stationary for a bit longer. I'm just going to compare pit stop times. Down was stationary for 31.2 seconds.
Yeah, that's the key. A longer stop. Maloney went for a shorter one, so he's got to go for the long stop then on the next stint. So Maloney gets the jump and takes the race lead away then from Madison Down, who has to actually negotiate past the 42 of Damon Mulqueen, who is apparently the answer to life, universe, and everything out there on track right now. And Madison will be hoping it's not. There's Forza Elnabi as well. He's just behind that in third position. So now this really does start to ask the question, what is going to happen now with the 201 and where the 201 is going to funnel out in comparison to all of this? Just a handful of drivers yet to come in and make a stop. And I believe that here is Adam Briggs, and there is Gilliam into the lane.
Yes, indeed. So joining him in the pits is Benjamin Smith. Briggs and Myers, meanwhile, changed positions out on track. Tom Freer now one of the last cars to come in for a pit stop. He assumes the overall race lead. And Sam Sutton, who already has a pit stop under his belt, continues on as well. So let's see then what Gilliam does.
Yeah, Brett Loxton dives down in onto the lane. Now, Sam Sutton's going to be the interesting one here in terms of this strategy to see how the one stop is going to play. Do not count him out of this race just yet, but there is Jake Maloney, who is in control of this one at this stage. Effectively, everyone's got one pit stop to go. Sam Sutton, you'd believe, would be pitting, you would say, around lap 32.
Oh, this is interesting.
I think would be the right thing. And this is really interesting because look at this behind. There is Forza Elnabi. There is Benjamin Smith, and there is Andrew Gilliam, who's behind all of that. So Benjamin Smith on the short field jumps Andrew Gilliam.
Very well played there by Benjamin Smith. Hearing that there might have been something extra for Gilliam in the pits, but I couldn't quite hear. 6 seconds more fuel. There we go for Andrew Gilliam. So he's going for the long second stint. Pretty much the same then as Madison Down.
Exactly. So long stint then for Andrew Gilliam. He's got to work hard over this one. Maybe use that fuel to the way that he would like. There is Mulqueen there in the middle of it. And there's the 22 car of Brady Myers, who's got to try and attack through Adam Briggs, who has jumped him in the stop. So Briggsy in the 72 now needs to work out, okay, what's the best way to go through things. There is just dropping to the outside. There is Neil Pearson yet to make a stop. So he will get out of the way of his teammate and very courteously do so.
Yeah, very courteously indeed. And down into Junsao once again for these two battlers. I tell you what, the fight behind them is looking really intense for just inside the top 20. But Brian Borg and Damian Johnstone keeping each other very good company as well. Of course, Borg having a bad qualifying and not the greatest in terms of pit stops, but very close between these two, and they have to deal with Neil Pearson as well, who we saw having a couple of technical issues just up ahead, but Borgie has to slip back in.
Yeah, that I didn't expect, though, to see Sam Sutton in on the lane. Tom Freer is out and away without any dramas at all. Sam Sutton takes a very short stop because of that. He gets back on strategy with everybody else, lap 26 of 58, so obviously couldn't make it home on the strategy that he wanted to, but look at where this is going to put out. There was one of the United cars running very wide there through the corner, and that's going to be side by side with Thomas Hinds, and it's his favourite friend again, Harley Haber, trying to go around the outside and picks it up off of the road. Now, will Thomas Hinds say, can you have a look at that? That was off the circuit.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because that green curb on the exit of turn 4, you actually can't use all of it. The off-track comes in quite harshly for that corner. Haber obviously extending the exit. He was on the outside of Hinds coming into the corner, so trying his best to maintain the momentum, but from Hinds' perspective, yeah, you might have something to talk to race control about.
Absolutely, and look at the train and look how much it's starting to bottleneck up here in the mid-pack right now. Everybody wants a place, but at the moment, it seems overtakes are a little bit in demand at this stage. They go on through. Now, look a little bit further behind. This is from Forza El Nabi's perspective, because there is Benjamin Smith, who is not wanting to get away. In fact, he's just set the fastest lap of the race on a 1:33.227. If there are any doubts about how quick Benjamin Smith can be, well, he's just put them to bed right now.
Goodness me, great pace from Benjamin, and on those fresh tyres now, with a bit less fuel in the tank than I'd think those drivers around him, he'll be able to get those fantastic times up and going. And El Nabi's lap time, by comparison, 5/10 slower. So this is going to be a bit of a hurry up to Forzan, I think.
Absolutely, especially with Forzan being just 1 or 2 seconds right now behind his main contender, Madison Down. There is Sam Sutton having mirrors full of Simrigs.com DPR. If there's any seat you need to get, it seems like at the moment Sam Sutton knows where he needs to go. Robin Kirk here with Philip Worley. And oh, captain, my captain, am I going to have myself a little bit of a moment? The answer is we're going to keep on battling, because with Simrigs.com DPR, we don't have team orders here.
Yep, no team orders at all between the two of them. Up the inside again for the 233 of Philip Worley. Gets the exit, nails it beautifully, and away they go. Is there going to be another attempt up the inside? Not this time. Have a look at this pack, though. Tom Freer has come out right in the thick of it.
Oh, right in the thick of it indeed. And look at the car that's just behind Tom Freer at the moment. That is, of course, the bonnetless car of his teammate there, Job Stewart, which is going to be a little bit awkward, especially with who's behind as well. That is Kyle George. They're fighting just outside of the top 20 for these positions, and they can't afford to be too frugal with how long they take, because that stop's going to be key. Now, there is the Mr. Antenna Premier Racing Team car, then, of Corey Shepherd in 6th place. Jordan Ross wants to get through in a 7th position right now and try and find a way on through, but ultimately, at the moment, it's a waiting game.
Yeah, very big waiting game, and that lack of rear wing from Corey Shepherd is not hurting his pace at all. Jordan has to think as well about Briggsy behind him in the number 72. Adam Briggs has been looking quite quick over the last couple of laps. In fact, on the previous lap, he was over a second faster, 1.5 seconds actually taken out of Jordan Ross, and up the inside he's going to try. But ultimately, I think Jordan Ross covering the inside beautifully there. Looking back again at Jack Boyd and Brian Borg, with Griffin Gardner right in the midst of this as well. Griffin's starting to tap the back of Borgie a little.
Absolutely. Of course, Brian Borg pitted under the safety car conditions, had the worst missed box I think I've ever seen in my life. But ultimately, he is there in 12th position. I think he's due to come in and make a stop in the not-too-distant future. Gap down, though. El Nabi to Ben Smith, half a second as they cross the line. But also, gap down, race lead to 9/10 of a second here. The top 5 split by under 5 seconds, and that's a mistake from Benjamin Smith, who slides it through turn 1, and now will drop all that time he tried to make up.
Yeah, pushing just a little bit too hard, overwhelming the tyres, and once you go for a slide and heat them up, they take their time coming back down too, so you're going to have to take it easy over the next couple of corners, Benjamin. But still showing that he is a proper contender for the podium in this race. And for the lead battle, with Jake Maloney's last lap, 34.4, Madison Down did a 33.8. So even though Down has loaded that car up with fuel, he knows how to put it around this circuit in a great amount of time. Jordan Ross still fighting, actually just got passed by Brady Myers there coming into turn 4. That car's looking very sick. Of course, Jordan Ross on old tyres. He'll be wanting to come back into the pit soon and get that car freshened up.
We are halfway through this race here at Interlagos, and it's gone by in the blink of an eye. There is the 143 machine, and there are your race leaders. Jake Maloney leading from Madison Down. The gap is half a second's worth at this stage, and is now all about, can Madison get by? I think that's not the point of contention here, but can he break away from Forza El Nabi, who is matching him lap for lap? But ultimately, those 2 seconds built in the opening few laps after the restart. They have been the key to Madison Down, effectively being best poised here in this race. The championship leader, as indicated by the red banner over the top of the car, going through the opening couple of sections. The VRS Trans-Tasman car looking to try and chase on down here, and I'm not sure how much resistance there will be.
Well, the general wisdom is there is no team orders at Trans-Tasman Racing. We saw that at the round at Virginia International Raceway when Down and Hampstead went hell for leather with each other. In comes Jordan Ross to get some fresh rubber on that thing. He would have been crying out for that. But Madison, right on the back of Jake Maloney now. I think it's going to be a proper race between these two. They're not going to want to give up too much time to El Nabi behind them. But if Maloney feels he can consolidate against Down, he probably will.
Well, that definitely seems to be the case, and the gap is starting to creep on down. It's down to 1.6, 1.5 seconds now. Forza El Nabi's picking up tenths of a second like it's pieces of candy at this stage on the road. So he's doing very, very well here in terms of just picking up a little bit here, a little bit there, but it's all about the ebbs and flows of this circuit, and every single second matters. Adam Briggs is up in 6th place, by the way. He's through on Corey Shepherd up through and making that pass, but now you start thinking about, okay, front straight time. If anywhere is going to be the place where the move happens, it's going to be now. Madison Down, nice and neat, nice and tight, and here is rule 101 of trying to get by a driver. If you're going to battle your teammate, you make it easy, and Down on the inside is going to take the race lead once again.
Little bit of a lock-up on the way through, but the move is completed for Madison Down back into the lead of the race. And now Maloney's tack is going to shift a little bit. He wants to stay with Madison. He wants to try and keep up the pace, keep Forzan El Nabi from digging a hole in this lead that they've got. El Nabi's last lap a 34.1, with Maloney a 34.6, and Down a 34.2. So they're going to have to take advantage of the clear air here if they don't want El Nabi to be a threat later on.
Speaking of threats, here's the fight for the top 10 right now. Jack Boyd, Griffin Gardner, Sam Sutton, all there trying to find themselves in the best possible place on the brakes. Sutton can't quite get there through turn 4 at the Interlagos, but behind that, Worley and Borg almost side by side through the corner as well. So they're fighting pretty much every which way. In fact, they're side by side here. Worley's on the outside, heading to the very tough Ferradura corner, and Borgie's going to try and fight this one every stage of the way. Door to door, they rub panels a little bit. Seems like Brian Borg's rubbed a lot of panels there, the way that side has gone on with things, but ultimately, it's down the inside for Philip Worley at the Pinarino, but it's going to be fought every which way, but no, not going to happen. Position changes as well as the 7th place, because Corey Shepherd's there. Oh no! Goes Worley, the same way Alec Albon did here.
Yes, that's a big shame there for Worley, and Harley Haber was caught up in that as well. He had to check up back into the pack, so now he's got Worley behind him, as well as Stenberg, Hins, Freer, and Caruso. Tell you what, these guys have been keeping each other very good company over the course of this race, but I get the feeling that, Brian Borg's redressing. He's slowed down on the straight, and he lets Worley go, but he also lets everyone else go as well. So I think maybe a bit mistimed from Brian Borg, but he had to get it done.
Well, what else can you do in that situation? You've got a huge slew of cars that are going to want to take advantage, so it would be a very tough redress to do, even at the best of times. And I think even all of the best drivers would struggle, as Kurt Stenberg evidently struggles through turn 2, can't get the power down on the tyres as he loses contact from the back of the group. And now Thomas Hins will want to try and get this one done in the RA2 car. On the brakes, thinking about the inside, but just a nose there, nothing more, nothing less.
Oh, Stenberg with a big slide on the exit of turn 4, so a little bit less rubber on Stenberg's rears now. That's going to help Hins ever so slightly, but can't forget about Jordan Caruso as well behind him. What's happened to Job?
I think Job Stewart's in the pits here, and it looks like he's in the pits for a while. He's dropped down to 36th position, and this might just be the end of the pursuit driver who's had a really good run.
That's a big shame for Job.
So we're thinking that Brian Borg here might be the next driver to come in and make a stop. Remember, he pitted incredibly early and is definitely due to come down in. Now, the Premier cars are definitely on different strategy to everyone else here today, so that's going to be worth keeping in mind. We're on lap 33 of 58 at this stage. And now it's a mirrored image here of two Simrigs.com DPR cars wanting to battle. Worley and Kirk here. It's a two-pronged defensive on Harley Haber.
Well, Harley has got the advantage coming into the first turn, goes defensive on the two DPR machines, and through they go into the braking zone. Stenberg and Hins really closing up on them in that braking zone, and the train continues. But Haber, crucially, at the front of it, which is where he would most like to be.
Of course, Harley Haber is a Venus flytrap of trying to overtake. You think you're nice and safe, and then you're going to have a real struggle getting away by him. Here's the fight going on, though, for the top 10. Jack Boyd there has now Sam Sutton, who's gone through on Griffin Gardner, has moved up the number 12 car into 11th position, if that's not confusing enough as it is. But the One Performance racing car, a little bit of smoke in front, little dive for the inside, a little nothing then in terms of getting that one done. Can't find a move, but Gardner's going to try and open up the pocket here, try and get that one done, but power on the exit. That's Sam Sutton's every day of the week.
Yeah, that it is. He's had a lot of experience in these cars as Sam Sutton, and for that matter, Griffin Gardner as well. But none of that experience helping them versus Jack Boyd right now. He's done an incredible job, has Jack, despite the damage, to keep his car in a competitive position. Corey Shepherd as well, I have to shout out for keeping that car in the top 10 without a rear wing. Let's see what happens down at turn 1, though. Sam Sutton is going to pull out here on Jack Boyd, potentially. A little bit of contact with the pit entry wall. But on the inside, the outbraking maneuver is on, and is Jack Boyd going to yield? No, he is not. He knows that he has the position there on the inside for turn 2, but now Sutton with the advantage coming through Curva de Sol, and I think Griffin Gardner is going to jump right in on this too.
Three-wide battle. They're also going at it as well for the race lead as well, but that one's a little bit closer. Here comes the look then. Griffin Gardner's trying to push away through here with one Mr. Sam Sutton, and he's got it almost. Just has to delegate himself to the outside, try and pick a run off for the exit here. Is Boyd, and force him out of road, why don't we then? That was a little bit dangerous, but he kept the foot in and gets the inside for Ferradura. Oh, what a move. Jack Boyd on Sam Sutton. He's got that one done fantastically. He's going to try and fight for the outside again, but Gardner wants in on the action as well. He's only a passenger and a bystander for this one. Jack Boyd holds.
How good is that defensive driving from Jack Boyd? He put the car exactly where he needed to at every single corner. Sutton doesn't really have a response for him at the moment. Yeah, aside from a little bit of a tap in the rear on the exit of the hairpin. But that battle is going to continue on. Looking a bit further back, meanwhile, Jordan Caruso and Kurt Stenberg for 16th and 17th. They're coming up on the DPR machine of, I believe that's Robin Kirk and Philip Worley up ahead. And if you pit at this point, you can make it home from here.
Yes, and that's the key. Lap 35 and 58. This is where the final window comes into play then in terms of this one. Now keep an eye on the front of the pack right now, because they're now split by just 3.2 seconds here, the top 5. And if you want to put any money on anybody having a good stop and gaining places here, I'd take an eye on that 201 machine in 5th place of Andrew Gilliam, because if you keep that focus on right now in terms of who is going to be where, remember Andrew Gilliam had such a long stop, he fell behind Benjamin Smith. Well, now he's primed and ready, 3 seconds away, and he lost 6 seconds in the stop.
That's exactly right. So Gilliam should be able to vault himself back up past Smith when they come in for that second stop. But will it help him in his fight versus Forzan El Nabi? There's still a big question mark over that. And that's the gap. That's how far behind Gilliam is. And El Nabi has drawn right up to the back of Jake Maloney now. Madison down, nice and comfortable in the lead, but with a 34.3 on the last lap for Maloney and a 34.0 for El Nabi, the 097 is quick.
Well, they've got to be measured here in terms of this race. They can't afford to be too aggressive. They can't afford to throw it all away. Jake Maloney is effectively playing as rear gunner to number 77, the championship leader, a one-time champion in this series, a 10-time iRacing V8 Supercar Series champion in Madison Down. This is where everything comes into play, and this final stop now could really change the whole thing. In comes Corey Shepherd, final stop of the day for the 718 Premier Racing Team car.
Yeah, and in the top 10 at the moment, and should stay in and around the top 10 once he comes out and everyone else has gone through their stop. Thomas Hinz and Brian Borg have also come in for their final stop of the night.
They know what they need, just fuel to get themselves over to the end. On the brakes then, through towards this Pinarino corner, then the long left, and Maloney here at 6.5 tenths of a second behind Madison Down right now, knows that he is in a really good position here in terms of the race. He has led a few laps here in this one. The championship leader took the position away without too much resistance, but crucially, 097 wants those places, wants those points, has to claw down 134 points of championship gap here, and knows that at this stage, if Madison finishes second pretty much in every race and Forzan wins it every time, that's not enough. He needs Madison to be third or something like that, with Forzan taking each the remaining, I believe, 6 races in this championship remaining.
Yeah, it's a big uphill fight for Forzan El Nabi from here, but anything can happen in V8 Scops, and to take a leaf out of Murray Walker's book, it usually does. So we'll see what Madison Down does over the last couple rounds. It's he's one of the most experienced competitors. He knows his way around the car. He knows his way around the tracks. El Nabi is the David to Down's Goliath at the moment, I think.
I think Madison Down is good at 2 things. He's good at finishing races, and he's good at finishing races in high positions. That is a combination which I think every driver wishes they had.
Yeah, I agree. I certainly wish I had that same ability, but Down running those times up at the front, it just doesn't look like El Nabi is really a patch on him at the moment. And Down's late season form, we know from past seasons, has always been something that you really come up against if you're one of his opponents.
Exactly. When it comes to the crunch time, he is someone who does it so very, very well every time he's out there on track. Question now, who blinks first? Sam Sutton wants down the inside here of Jack Boyd, and very nearly prizes it open like he's got a crowbar in his hand, but not going to quite find that for the moment. Sutton has to play the patience game. Jack Boyd is resolute.
Yeah, same as it was a couple of laps ago, Jack Boyd. Oh, all the leaders have come in. All of the top 3 are now into the pits. Down Maloney and El Nabi, and Forzan locking up on entry. He was a little bit later on the brakes than Maloney was, but that's gained him a crucial 10th or so in terms of time.
Has he sped on the lane, though? This is crucial. You've got to look at these drivers in the pit. Who's going to jump first? So Benjamin Smith takes the race lead. Andrew Gilliam second. The next group dives down in. It will be 20-lap sprints then for those at the front as they all look to try and hit their marks and go down to the end of the lane. Who's going to go first then in terms of their stops? You can see a couple of drivers going through, and it's El Nabi who's got the jump. Everyone! Oh, fantastic!
Round the outside at the pit exit. I've never seen anyone do that before.
Wow! Forzan El Nabi takes effectively the net race lead away here from Madison Down, and that was exactly what United Simsport were looking for. Play cautious, stay behind, save some fuel, and jump Madison in the final stop. And now all of a sudden, look at where that Harley Haber is now. If he can just get aggressive there, you'd feel he needed an extra half a second on one Mr. Madison Down to bring Harley into the game.
Yeah, well, Harley's still got to come in for his second stop, so he's not going to factor into this battle once he comes in, but he can certainly mess up the feathers of the top 3 in this position right now.
Team game sometimes has to be played, but Harley Haber's tyres, they're not letting him play the team game right now. He can't be any factor here against Madison Down. He's got to think behind about Philip Worley. Now, these two stay out longer. The longer that they leave this, the more that undercut is going to come into play on the fresh rubber, the fresh tyres underneath them. So now Benjamin Smith and Andrew Gilliam, what are they planning here in terms of how long they can go? We know that Gilliam is better on the fuel than Benjamin Smith, but where do they all funnel out?
That is the big question, and I think Gilliam is going to come out ahead, hearing a couple more cars jump on into the pits meanwhile. It looks like that's Sam Sutton coming in for another stop, but Smith and Gilliam, well, Benjamin Smith, you would expect, is going to pit before Andrew Gilliam, considering how short his first stop was. So I don't know how he's going to factor into it, but I'm interested to see how long Gilliam is stopped for, because remember, he had roughly the same pit stop time as Madison Down, and Down decided to pit just a couple of laps ago, so we can probably expect Gilliam in the next 2 laps.
Yes, and of course they have to be cautious about how much they give to these drivers at the moment. El Nabi is 4/10 clear of Madison Down, has got exactly the gap that he wants then in terms of the championship picture, in terms of how this one all goes. You can see how aggressive through that corner Madison Down is. He knows he's got to get on by the 097 again. Actually, for the first time this race, he's been the leader for the most laps, has Madison Down, but he knows better than anybody else. He's got to think about the bigger picture here. He may even decide that if I can't win this one, second position behind is the best place. You can't afford to lose the race now compared to when you lose it later. I believe Smith and Gilliam have both stayed out.
They have indeed, both of them. And on the subject of El Nabi's pit entry, I think it's obvious by now that it wasn't a problem for him. I went back and checked his speed at the line. It looked like he was just okay. Jake Maloney, meanwhile, he's a bit further back than he wants to be right now, making his way past Philip Worley coming into turn 1. And El Nabi with the fastest lap of the race, 33.068. Will we get into the 32s by the time the checkered flag falls?
In comes Griffin Gardner then for Burst Esports in the 93 machine, and that will promote a few more drivers up the positions. Kobe Williams and Kyle George now into the top 10. Geordie Sinney also into the top 10, but will not have to worry about too much then in terms of that. They are still due to make their stops. El Nabi holding off a gap at the moment at this third position right now, with those two in front, Gilliam and Smith, due to come in and make a stop. But crucially here, they are fluctuating, Smith and Gilliam, around 1 second. So Gilliam might just be trying to get into a range to get even more morsels of fuel out of the car.
Yeah, the fuel saving will come in, especially down that really long front stretch. It's not really a straight. You've got a couple of turns to navigate there, but really long run to turn 1. You can really afford to. Oh, I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought because Benjamin Smith has just come into the pits. Gilliam, crucially, has stayed out. Neil Pearson has come in for a bit of damage repair, and he is now out. So I'm going to keep an eye on Benjamin Smith for you guys.
Well, we're on the leaders right now, so this is where Forsen El Nabi is. This is where Madison Down is, and starting from 16th position, did anybody expect Benjamin Smith to be racing this one for the race win overall here as they go on through, hit the brakes, turn 1. Where is Smith in comparison? He's not going to be challenging these two at the front. He's not left his box just yet. I think he just has now, and that would probably put him behind Jake Maloney, and does so by a fair, comfortable distance.
Yeah, so that's the swings and roundabouts for taking a short middle stop. It means that your final stop, you're just going to be at a standstill for longer. So Maloney under no threat at all from Mr. Smith at the moment, but Andrew Gilliam still a bit of a question mark over his head. We should be expecting him in any lap now, but just keeping it nice and smooth out there on the track at the moment. Those tyres going to be screaming for a bit of mercy after this stint.
Absolutely, Andrew Gilliam, it has been a coming-of-age year for the 201. He has done so much this year to get his pace up. He's got 2 race wins in this series to his name, both of which came at Motorsport with some brilliant running. Is this the time to dive down in for 201? It looks like it is, and now this needs to be the perfect pit stop to try and chase down both Forsen El Nabi and Madison Down, the 097 and 77, the 2 championship leaders going through Junsao.
Yeah, and it looks like with them coming out of Junsao there, it might not be good for Gilliam. He probably won't be able to challenge too much with these guys. He's stationary in the box now, waiting to see Down and El Nabi come through onto the start-finish line. There they are in the distance. Gilliam still stationary in his box there over on the right-hand side, so that is the lead gone for Andrew Gilliam. He just gets going. Might he be able to beat Jake Maloney? No.
But crucially, he's got the freshest tyres of anyone, and he can go and attack then when it comes to this. So what is going to happen in terms of this battle for 3rd and 4th? Maloney and Gilliam are going to be close. So now it's down to 2 at this moment. El Nabi and Madison Down, the two leaders in the championship, will be scrapping it out then for the race victory today here at the wonderful circuit of Interlagos. And dare I say, what would a caution do at this stage for Andrew Gilliam on those fresh tyres?
Oh, yeah, goodness me. He'd probably be in the box seat if a caution were to come out, but it looks like everyone is pretty spaced out at the moment. We saw that initial run of chaos at the start, but I think the blown engines and such that we saw largely due to the knock-on effects of the turn 4 lap 1 incident.
Yes, and we've seen most, if not everybody, dive down into the lane. So in terms of where the minor positions are, Adam Briggs 6th, Damien Johnstone up to 7th now, with Brady Myers 8th, Jack Boyd 9th, and Sam Sutton rounding out the top 10. Here's Corey Shepherd, though. He wants 11th place now. And guess what? They have found a spare rear wing for Corey Shepherd because he's out and going again in 12th place.
Excellent stuff. That car looks proper now, with obviously a little bit of a dent there in the right rear quarter, but he can resume his fight here with Griffin Gardner. He's got the top 10 beckoning for him right up ahead. There's Johnstone. Oh, Gilliam, yes, he has gotten through on Maloney, and that's into turn 1.
Easy pickings then for Andrew Gilliam. He's just got the move done here on Jake Maloney, but it's not guaranteed here because they've got that run to Desquita del Lago, turns 4 and 5 out here on the track, the lakeside corner, and on the brakes. Nope, Maloney's not going to be there, so he's off the podium. Now Gilliam's got to go max attack mode. He's got to take off probably about 0.3 of a second every lap on those fresher tyres.
Yeah, well, those 0.3 are probably only going to last for 4 or 5 laps if he really goes for it. And then the times may start dropping off. El Nabi and Downs times are looking to be in the mid to high 33s or thereabouts. They're keeping each other really honest up the front, though. So if they start fighting, start going side by side, and Gilliam still has some rubber available, then he'll be right in it.
He certainly will. Andrew Gilliam's not one to give up. He knows how to push. He loves to attack. He loves to be in this position. There is Griffin Gardner, though. He's looking to attack. He's thinking of top 10'sville here with Sam Sutton just in front. Nose to the inside in the Holden and can't quite get it all sorted up with a nice, neat bow through there. He'll have to wait a little bit longer then if he wants to pick up this position, and the waiting game continues once more.
Yep, just for a few more corners here for Griffin. Sam Sutton up there in 10th, and a bit of a wider line then into Mergulo. There's going to be no chance for Gardner to get by there. He's going to have to wait for turn 1. Andrew Gilliam starting to come up to a bit of traffic here. That is Clint Smith, who started in last and is now up into 35th place, taking advantage of others' errors. And side by side between Sutton and Gardner, down the start-finish straight. Griffin with the inside line. Looks like he might have this, drawing ahead of Sutton across the line. We'll see what kind of defense goes on for Sam here. Can he hold it round the outside into turn 1? No.
Nope, couldn't do it. So Griffin Gardner jumps into the top 10, doing exactly what is needed. Just got a word in from Henry King over at ANZ Motorsports, who has been crunching some numbers for us behind the scenes. Basically, if Forzan wins every race from here at the final round, Madison would need a P5 or better finish in order to take the title back with Trans-Tasman Racing. So keep that in mind as they continue on with their fight. But Forzan at the front, we'll get a look at the gap now. It's almost a second.
Yeah, Down's fallen off a little bit on El Nabi over the previous lap, and I'm not quite sure why. I think maybe just calming down a little bit, or actually making a mistake into turn 1. I just went back and checked. It was nearly some contact between the two of them. We're hearing there's going to be a curveball. Has Forzan got enough fuel is the question. He had a 2-second shorter stop than Madison Down.
Well, he does love to run the numbers close, but look at how much this is actually closing everything up. Andrew Gilliam, remember that gap was 5 seconds to Madison Down? Yeah, it's now 3 seconds.
Whoa, okay. So, that's a bit of a white dove, I think, for Andrew Gilliam. Seeing that there is land in the distance and he'll be able to make landfall on second. We'll have to wait and see.
He'll want it, he'll need it, he'll need to do everything in his powers to try and close up that gap, because you bet your bottom dollar that when they see Gilliam closing in, they'll try and ramp up the pace. Here's another little scrap a little bit further down. Harley Haber, 13th place, lucky for some, has Philip Worley there in 14th, wanting to try and pick up a position, pick up a move. And has he got everything that's needed? No, not yet, but Philip Worley would love that P13. That would be a great result for him today.
Yeah, it certainly would, especially considering that he started in 23rd. Harley Haber has advanced 2 positions from where he started, so Worley obviously sees that he has a bit more to gain than Harley here, but keeping him honest through the hairpin section. Haber a bit later on the brakes, carrying the momentum. That's what is allowing him to stay ahead.
Yes, and that's the key, just staying ahead, doing what's needed here. Harley Haber is a difficult character to try and get by, and Philip Worley, who's already been bitten today by an incident, will now need to try and find a way back through to get the simrigs.com DPR car up into that 13th place. That's just something to focus on from now, of course, until the end of this race. There are positions that are needed up and down the order here in terms of this field, and everybody has been working incredibly hard in this one. I think it's been a really, really entertaining race so far. There's Thomas Hinz, for example. He needs a place. He's trying to get past Kurt Stenberg for 17th.
Yeah, and these two certainly good mates out there on track, Stenny and Hinsey, but it looks like Thomas might be a bit later on the brakes. He's got the inside line for turn 1, but just not far up enough on Stenberg to get the move done. It's really difficult to pick the braking point for turn 1 because you have to brake just a little bit later than you think you do, and the corner really tightens up on the exit. So Hinsey didn't take advantage that time, but he's definitely going to take advantage down here at Descida del Lago. Stenny still ahead by just a hair's breadth when they get to the turn-in point, but Hinsey on the inside, Stenny out on the marbles. That is the swap done.
There's not much you can do there if you're Kurt Stenberg. Thomas there was like a tank engine going and making that one happen. That was beautiful, the way he got that done. Gap, though, between Gilliam and Down, it's now to 2.5 seconds here in terms of this one, and Stenberg tries to fight that one back, but can't quite get close enough to make it happen. But 2.5 seconds now, Gilliam to Down. If it gets to 1 second, now there's trouble station for those two at the front of the field. But for the time being, this mid-back scrap still has a few contenders on the back of it there. There is Andrew Gilliam. There's the gap. It's about 2.6 seconds right now, and he needs to try and close this down more. But he is running out of laps. See the counter right now? They're on 12 to go. It'll be 11 at the line.
That it will, but the lap times from Andrew Gilliam have been pretty stonking at the moment. It's been low 134s for Down and El Nabi, a 33.8 for Gilliam, so he's still lapping just a couple of tenths of a second faster. In the lower reaches of the top 30, though, Brian Borg having some more adventures here. He's just gotten passed by Reese Keenan, is going to have another passport on him by Emily Jones, who has had a very rough race here. In fact, most of these drivers having a bit of a rough time. Jones with the run down the straight. She's going to get it down here at turn 1.
On the brakes, and nicely done, but Borgie is late there, just lifts off and tries to run around the outside here. So Emily Jones, Emery is going to defend it on the outside of 2 and holds the place against Brian Borg. Well battled by Emily and Brian there in the top 30 scrap that they've got at the moment. Andrew Dyson, who's not had the best race after the opening stages, will definitely want to get close enough, but ultimately not there at this moment. It's not enough just yet, but there will be time for these moves to happen. This is a 4-car scrap, and you know what? It's a simrigs.com sandwich, and like peanuts, butter and jelly, you've got a filling of Trans-Tasman Racing and Premier Racing Team.
That you have, but it looks like the bottom slice is wanting to get up into the middle of the sandwich there. We just briefly cut away. Jack Boyd, another car that was formerly wingless and now has a wing. Got that done at the pit stop and still in the top 10, but he's got his old friends for company. Griffin Gardner is pressuring him now for that 9th spot. And in terms of lap times, well, Gardner has the advantage. Took 4 tenths out of Boyd on the last lap.
He certainly is. He's doing fantastically at this stage. Is Griffin Gardner chasing down Jack Boyd in the Synergy Sim Racing number 58 machine in pink, patented pink. is Jack Boyd. That's his colour, and he knows he's got to be very cautious about the way he goes on with this, and he knows he can't afford to leave too much on the table, but this top 10 is all about holding on, and Griffin Gardner here is taking narrow lines in the Burst Esports outfit, trying to get as close as possible to attack.
Yeah, trying to get as close as possible to attack, though, is one of the most difficult things to do around this track. The amount of corners you have to navigate around here, how they all flow into each other. You basically have to have your rest on the straights and then plan out the entire sequence of corners before you if you want to get an advantage. Griffin just easing up to the back of Jack through the slower sector. Oh, hello, Emily Jones side by side into, that is Ferradura. Side by side with Reese Keane, and Keane holding on really well up the inside. Can Jones fire it up the inside at the next corner? Yes, she can. Can she complete it? Oh, not without a bit of biffo.
Bit of biffo, but the move not done. So well held, Reese Keane keeps Emily Jones behind, as that is also Dyson through on board. So it's a different type of sandwich. We forget about the Premier Racing Team filling. It's just Trans-Tasman now, so it's effectively just a peanut butter sandwich. But at this stage, it's a case of what can you do here in terms of the battles right now, and what can Andrew Gilliam do? Gilliam has hit the wall.
Oh, no.
Not the wall. He's hit the cliff of trying to hit the next stage, of trying to gain that weight. He's not
Don't do that to me, Sperry. Goodness me.
He's at the stage where he can't get any more time out of Down and El Nabi.
Okay, I'm a little bit calmer now, but still, good point. Gilliam's last lap of 34.075, and that's roughly equal with what Down and El Nabi have done on the last lap as well. So, like I said, those tyres, they're only going to last about 6 or 7 laps on that stint, and now they've fallen off the cliff.
They certainly have, and, well, Andrew Gilliam's got to find a miracle now. He's got Jake Maloney 4 seconds back, doesn't need to worry about that, and this is all about now mid-to-pack scraps at this stage. Look at the train behind Jack Boyd, and they're all fighting for a top 10. Gardner, Sutton, Shepherd, Haber's in there, Worley's in there, all of them want a top 10. How are we supposed to tell them that about half of them aren't going to get it?
Yeah, that is the big question, but, you know, there's always hope in the last 9 laps of a race that something will happen to the drivers up ahead of you and you'll be able to take advantage of it. Currently, it is Boyd and Gardner who occupy those positions, but Sam Sutton staying pretty equal on lap time, and Corey Shepherd running a 34.4 as well. So I'm interested to see where it goes from there. Harley Haber looks like the fastest car in this pack, and Philip Worley not too bad either.
Yeah, they're all looking really quick, but they're stuck behind Jack Boyd, who at the moment has Griffin Gardner behind, who can't find a way through. On the brakes they go, into the left-hand corner of turn 4 at Ski de Lago, but again, it's a case of trying to put yourself in the best position to go out there and attack the place, and no one's in a position to attack that place because they're all stuck in pack mentality. Can't get close enough, can't get through, and the driver in front's got draft as well. So this is pretty much disaster land at this stage for trying to find a move, because you've got to be brave.
Yeah, and bravery is something that you'll only like to see on the last lap. So I feel like the battle is still really brewing here for the last positions in the top 10. Once we get into the last 3 or 4 laps, that's when you're going to start seeing some big moves being made.
Well, the big moves will have to be done, and they will have to be done soon here in this mid-pack fight for the top 10 out there in this race. Talk about quiet drives, though, today, in terms of who's done well. Haven't talked much about number 22 in this field today, Brady Myers, who is in 8th position. What a very underrated drive this has been. Started in 18th position, is up 10 places here today in the Logitech G Altus Esports car, and has just quietly gone about and done the business.
Yeah, he has, and he's overcome quite a few difficulties. There's obviously contact, considering the right-hand side of his car, and also the fact that he overshot his pit box on one of his stops. Considering all of that, to see Brady Myers in the top 10, it's a pretty good result that he's lined up for. Damian Johnstone, though, in 7th place. I mean, there's not much more you can say other than really good job, Damian. He's kept his car clean, and he is the biggest mover in the field. Started in 27th.
He's up to 7th, so that's a gain of 20 places if maths is correct, which normally isn't for commentators, but I'm pretty sure that one is. But that one all working nicely. In terms of spirit breakers, though, at the front of the field, look at the gap that Forza El Nabi now has on Madison Down. Has been working hundredth by hundredth of a second to build this one up. The gap is fluctuating up and over 1 second right now. Forzan's using everything to keep Madison behind.
Yeah, some of the runoff on the entry to turn 1 as well, which you can use as part of the racetrack, just allows him to widen up the entry into turn 1 a little bit. It's working out pretty well for him. 34.089 for El Nabi, a 34.099 for Madison Down. So this race is not over by any stretch. One single slip up from El Nabi and Madison Down is going to be right in there. And unfortunately, we haven't seen much of Andrew Gilliam for the last couple of laps either. He's run a little bit slower than Down and El Nabi on the last couple of laps and pretty much still out of contention for a potential win.
I think he's reliant on those two coming together. There's the fight continuing then for Jack Boyd. There's Harley Haber trying to get around Corey Shepherd. He's trying to go one up through the train here. They're starting to drop back a little bit. And now, where do you go? Where do you start making moves here? Harley's close, but is he close enough to the back of the Mr. Antenna Premier Racing Team car? No, not yet. But there's still Jack Boyd in front, able to hold the place for the time being. But look at Griffo trying to find himself a place to attack. He wants in, Haber wants in. Haber's got in at this stage on the inside. Griffo can't do much, and Haber's through, but up and under. Why don't we try and get this one back? Corey Shepherd, experience beyond his years, trying to get it done, but Harley's having none of it, and here comes Worley.
Yeah, Philip Worley, a little bit of contact there with Shepherd, and he's going around, half spin, but Philip Worley lifts out of it and lets Corey Shepherd maintain the position. That is a shame, though, because they've completely lost touch with Haber now.
And now those who are looking 6 for 2 places becomes 4. Oh, Jack Boyd sliding a little bit then on the tyres through Mahulo corner. And now the lead gap comes down to 7/10. Was Madison Down just biding time, making sure the engine temperatures and such were okay, to have one big concerted effort at the end?
That is the question. I think with how close he's been to El Nabi, he's still been within the 1 second bracket, and he's been able to lift off a little bit, conserve the engine. There goes Griffin Gardner up the inside of Jack Boyd at turn 1. Can Boyd hold it? Oh, it's close between the two of them, but it looks like Griffin Gardner's going to have the advantage here. Oh my goodness, Sam Sutton around the outside at turn 3. I was not expecting that, and will Jack Boyd give him the room? Oh, not quite.
Oh, this is madness as they go through. Boyd on the outside trying to hold this one, and he tries it, but he's going to run too deep here. He's going to have to take to the AstroTurf, and now he's going to put the power down on the exit. There is Sam Sutton, who wants in on this as well. 3 to the fight, and now 4. Harley Haber's there. Sutton looks for the inside at Ferradura. No luck, no look, no love, no dice.
Well, plenty of dice for Griffin Gardner, though, because he has completed that move, and now he's finally up into 9th place, taking nothing away from Jack Boyd. I mean, that's one of the biggest defensive drives I've ever seen in Scops, but Madison Down on the headlight flash. Now that we are in the final 5 laps, it's a bit of a wake-up call to Forza El Nabi. G'day, mate. I'm coming.
Remember, Madsen Down now has started to use every trick in the book. He's been around on iRacing so long, he probably helped to write that book at this stage. But Forzan here is going to have to put the defensive card out now here in the final 5 laps. You're not going to have everything your own way. You're not going to hold him back to the tune of a second. That gap's come down by half in 3 laps. And now Forzan's going to have to play some defensive measures here. And the moment they start going defensive through corners, that's when the 201 closes.
Exactly. Andrew Gilliam has lost the pace advantage that he had on the fresh tyres, but he's still within the range that if El Nabi and Down come together, he can potentially get up there into that first position. So now it's just waiting with bated breath to see who makes the big move. Madison is just lurching from corner to corner, chipping away at the gap that El Nabi has. I cannot believe what this race has come down to, and I'm absolutely loving this.
It does it every time. Missed apex from Forzan there. He missed it by about a third of a car. And now Madison can attack up the hill, trying to attack this one, trying to gain some time. I don't think he's close enough this time to make the move, but he makes sure his presence is surely felt here as they go cross towards the stripe. 4 laps to go at Interlagos, and you feel now that one Mr. El Nabi here has got to be so careful on these brakes, hoping that he doesn't make one tiny look-up.
Yeah, Madison was much later on the brakes coming into turn 1 as well. I was astounded that he managed to pull it up without locking the brakes, and now it's well within half a second between Down and El Nabi, actually 0.3 of a second, so Down properly on the attack.
It's all about making it now. You either make it or you break it here. If you're the 097, if you're the 77, this is championship implications, as Mark Scaife would say. This is all about how do you get yourself to the end. This is about thinking of the bigger picture as well. Madison doesn't have to make this move today, but what a statement it would be if he did.
Exactly. I mean, he certainly got the capacity to, but if he were to make that move and come away with this victory, it would be well and truly putting his stamp on the Drivers' Championship. Of course, taking nothing away from Forzan El Nabi, I think this has been one of his best drives with a fantastic pit stop and going around the outside of the pit exit. I still can't believe he did that. But it's all come down to this between the two leaders. Madison Down into the draft now, coming down the front stretch. El Nabi with a slightly better exit, but with another headlight flash from Down. You can't see it, but I could. It's on.
It certainly is. Madison Down trying to chase this one here. Does Forzan go defensive to the pit wall? Oh, you bet he does. He thought about it. He was in 2 minds, but goes back to the outside because Madison is not close enough on the brakes this time into turn 1. Good news about Interlagos, turn 4. That's the next place Madison has a chance to attack, and a small slide there from Forzan. And look at this. This is pretty much everything we expected here. Here comes the run. Forzan's got to go middle of the road here. Work out where do you want to go here, Madison. Not close enough to get that one done. There's 2 more opportunities after that.
Yes, indeed. That's going to be coming up to Ferradura. If Down is brave, he can try and fire one up the inside here, but no, not for now. It's a 3rd gear, ascending right-hander. But you get the exit right out of here, you can get a run and fire one up the inside into the S's section. You see Down just a little bit later on the brakes again. Later turn in, he is squaring off every single corner. El Nabi, on the other hand, taking narrow entries. He's really going defensive now.
Oh, he's got to cover the inside because Madison's got to go to the outside, and now he's going to try it the Bico de Pato. This is really committed defending here. And this
there
is
we go.
Contact. Madison Down into the side then. The Forzan El Nabi, they hold it together through the corner. How did Forzan El Nabi keep it all there? And suddenly Gilliam gets within 2 seconds then of the race leaders. And this race suddenly becomes a 3-car scrap for the overall. Madison's still in range here to go and attack. Is he going to have a look into turn number 1? Potentially again. Forzan's got to defend this one hard to the pit wall. He does, but now he's going to shuffle him out to the outside here as they hit the brakes. Around the outside he looks, but not yet.
2 to go. 2 laps to go. And the leaders have made contact. Oh, I cannot believe this. There's so many places around this circuit where it can go so wrong for these drivers, and it's another spot that El Nabi's going to have to go defensive down here at turn 4. Down might be able to get it around the outside, but no. El Nabi covers him off just in the braking zone, but he's gone too deep. He's on the marbles. He's wide. Madison Down is now through and back into the lead of the race, and he's cleared him.
Oh, disaster! Forzan now needs to go immediately on the offensive here. He's got to be aggressive with Madison Down. He's got to unsettle him here in front, and he's got to try and do it ASAP. He's not going to get it here because Madison's half defending into this corner, and a little bump to the back then, trying to send the message here. I'm trying everything now to get this one back. Madison has forced the error out of Forzan El Nabi here. On the brakes they go, lap and a bit left.
Wondering if Forzan is fuel saving as well. We had some doubts over his stop, how short it was, how much fuel he'd have to get to the end. Who knows? He might be running on fumes right now. Andrew Gilliam is getting closer and closer. It's going to be white flag, Sperry.
White flag, 1.1 seconds. El Nabi to Gilliam right now. Andrew Gilliam has a hope and a prayer. He's got a chicken wing on a string if he wants to get involved with these two, the two championship leaders. And Madison Down, the championship leader, has the position that he wants to send an emphatic statement to the rest of the grid, the rest of the division. Through turn 1 and 2, no looks, but Forzan could have a chance into 4 here. Gets a good run, and now you feel if he doesn't get it done here, it's going to have to be unorthodox for Forzan El Nabi. Here's the chance then, and it looks like the gap, 0.3 of a second, is all that Madison needs at the moment, and slowly extending it then. On the brakes they go, into the left of turn number 4 to Interlagos, and Madison Down is clear there. Exactly the right point, the right time, the right pressure was needed to be applied from him, and now he's starting to think about, okay, are we seeing that checkered flag come the end? El Nabi up the hill. Now here's another braking zone where you can get it done. He's definitely not close enough just yet, but he's got to set up here. The Pinarino corner. If you can get this one done, then this is ideal. But again, Madison picks up a 10th on entry here and says, you are nowhere near close enough to get this one done. So committed on the brakes. They've all 3 of them go. But I think this is down to, can you have one more good corner if you're Madison Down? It looks like it's all nice and dandy here for number 77 on the brakes, going through Junsao, and now the run up the hill. There's no more time, there's no more corners, there's no more positions for Zan. That was your mistake, only yours. Yes, there was contact 3 from the line, but 2 to go. You lost that victory. Madison Down has just sent a statement message. You've got to beat me and then some to take this title from me. Madison Down wins at Interlagos.
What a shame for Forzan. I mean, that was a great defensive drive from him, but ultimately that mistake at turn 4 is what cost him, and he is out of fuel. So El Nabi just getting it to the line as Andrew Gilliam completes the podium positions. We're going to have cars coming across the line here. Benjamin Smith holds on for a top 5, excellent job, as well as Adam Briggs in 6th, and Damian Johnston across the line for P7. That's celebration, and I think well earned.
Definitely, to be up 20 places in the race, brilliant now. Griffin Gardner did get it done then on Jack Boyd over the line, and he gives a big slide to say that he's happy about it. Sutton and Haber to the line. That is Sam Sutton who picks it up come the end, and there's going to be a bit of biffo over the line then after that one, but ultimately is the motor replay. This is what Griffin Gardner did, try and celebrate, but this is Sam Sutton versus Harley Haber that we're going to focus on right now. So here's the brakes going through the left corner, and Harley got close. He actually tapped him on the back there, trying to pick that one up, but just didn't happen. It keeps going. Sutton forces him wider and wider still, trying to make sure which way you're going to go. Force him to the wide line, trying to make it happen. And there you can see Griffin Gardner just celebrating that one over the line then as much as he can. But ultimately, Harley not close enough. The line was just a few meters too early.
Yeah, and they were making contact when they were coming to the line, so about as close as you can get between Sutton and Haber. But looks like everyone has crossed the line now. We've just got Madison Down now, coming in on his victory lap. A well-earned victory for the championship leader.
What a win this will be, and in terms of a championship, in terms of what this win means, this was a mission statement that was mission succeeded for number 77, who started the car on pole position, didn't have everything his own way, but forced the error out of the 097, and those are the margins, and that will be the moment which decides this championship. Mark my words about it. Madison Down picks up the win by 4/10 over Forzan El Nabi. Andrew Gilliam, close, but no cigar. He is now certainly of the upper echelon now with that sort of result. Jake Maloney picks up 4th with a brilliant 5th place, going to Benjamin Smith. What a drive he had today to only be 11 seconds off of the leaders come the end. Adam Briggs for DPR gets 6th place, with Damian Johnstone up 20 places in the race to get the 033 Synergy car into 7th place. Brady Myers gets 8th place, with Griffin Gardner 9th, and Jack Boyd rounding out the top 10.
Sam Sutton just beat out Harley Haber to 11th spot there, with Philip Worley coming home in 13th. Great drive from him after starting 23rd. Corey Shepherd comes home in 14th. but Jordan Caruso will have been wanting better from that. Started in 7th, but only has to settle for 15th place after a messed up pit entry and a drive-through penalty for him. Tom Freer and Thomas Hens, 16th and 17th. Kyle George comes home in 18th, just under a second ahead of Kurt Stenberg and Geordie Sinney, who round out the top 20.
And now on to the next page. Kobe Williams had a spin today, but still gets 21st place ahead of Captain Robin Kirk there in 22nd. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Brett Loxton gets 23rd. A quiet race from him today. Just didn't have enough, it seemed, today for him. David Sanford, 24th. Looked good in qualifying, did Mr. Sanford. The race, though, still a pretty decent run there to 24th place. Glenn Postlethwaite and Emily Jones, 25th and 26th, respectively, with Kenneth Latta, the only Exto Gaming car today, in 27th, with Andrew Dyson, 28th, Brian Borg in 29th, and Reese Keane makes the 30.
Just outside the top 30, we got Ben Christensen. It was P1 for him in Split 2, P31 in the main game. Damon Mulqueen finishes behind him by only 4/10. Jordan Ross was the last car to finish on the lead lap in 33rd position. Not a great run for Ross after starting in 9th. Then lap down, we got Neil Pearson and Clint Smith. They still made it to the finish and were classified, but now we get into retirement territory. Job Stewart, James Scott, Michael Taliancic, Sam Blacklock, and Richard Hampstead round out the top 30. The first car out tonight was Trans-Tasman Racing's Sean Kelly.
Yeah, and that was the one that caused the safety car in these stages. So those were the 41 that got themselves over and all but done. But that is something absolutely magnificent that we have just seen. We're going to step aside very, very briefly here on the iRacing Esports Network. Back with the post-race show after this.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top here!
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your virtual racing school V8SCOPS 2020 season, round 12 in the books. And ultimately, it is with Madison Down, the championship leader, where it finds itself all sorted out. We are in the post-race show here at this point in time. I'm Jake Sperry, that's Reese Gardner alongside me. And this coming into the booth right now is Madison Down, the race winner here today. Now, Madison, that one was a lot tougher than maybe you were expecting. 5 drivers in the mid stages of the race, all within a shot of winning. But then the pit stop coming out, Forza Nabi jumping you in that sense. And then what happened with 3 laps to go and 2 laps to go. Surely one of the most memorable races I think you've had in your sim racing career.
Oh, absolutely. Like I didn't actually expect to be on the pace as much as I was tonight. I've had a pretty up and down week and pretty busy week leading into it. So to have the pace to get pole and then be running at the front was pretty good. Shows the work the team's done in the last couple of rounds is really setting us up nicely at the back end of the year. But amazing finish. I didn't think I had anything for Forzen in the last 10 laps, and made a couple of changes in the car, and all of a sudden the car came alive and came back at him. And yeah, a little bit of contact, let him get it gathered up again and attacked again. And yeah, awesome race. Interlagos has turned it on a couple of times now in the final few laps, and yeah, tonight was no different.
Tonight, definitely no difference. And well, let's talk about the mid stages of the race, because you had the majority of the laps under your belt. Your teammate Jake Maloney picked up the lead ahead of you just for a small while in that race. But were there always concerns looking around you about who was on what and what strategy was doing what, seeing the likes of, say, Forzan behind you, Andrew Gilliam on clearly a longer strategy, and maybe the surprise package of Benjamin Smith?
Yeah, strategy-wise was an interesting race. Obviously, 3 of us covered quite early to pit and get onto fresh tyres as early as possible, but it was pretty worrying watching Gilliam in the mirrors coming at us quite quickly at the end there with much newer tyres. His tyres began to plateau, which kind of took the pressure off, but in the last couple of laps, if he could have got to the back of us, he would have been a real chance. So very interesting race. It probably didn't play out the way that we expected it strategy-wise. It kind of seemed like you could have done 2 or 3 different things and still ended up at a similar result. So yeah, interesting race to watch back for sure.
And crucially, let's talk championship now, because you know you've got Belle Isle coming up in about 5 to 6 weeks' time. You've got the likes of Spa-Francorchamps coming up, as well as the Driver's Choice, and then Road America to finish off the season. You now take with you over 140 points of championship lead with you. Do you feel comfortable with that championship lead, or are you still in a position where every result has to be meticulously and finely crafted and we're not in a case of damage limitation?
I don't think you can ever be comfortable really until it's done and dusted. And in the way this championship is, you can't drop the last round. So it's almost impossible to wrap it up before that point. And, you know, some of the accidents tonight showed us anything can happen. There was a couple of big contenders tonight, including James Scott, that got tied up in a bit of a crash there and definitely hurt their championship. So, but that can happen at any round. It can just as easily happen at the final round. So very important for us to keep the momentum going, build as big of a gap as what we can. But yeah, obviously winning races is the easiest way to do that. So it was a pretty good night for us tonight.
Well, the stage is yours here, Madison. Shout out to sponsors. Anyone you'd like to thank? A huge race victory for you today.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. Yeah, amazing night. Big thanks to everyone at TTR again. They did a lot more prep work than me, particularly Richard and Jake Maloney, in terms of setting the car up. So big thanks to them. Big thanks to our sponsors as well, Virtual Racing School and Bianchi Model Cars. And a big thanks actually to my family, because I'm missing out a family outing tonight and to race. And I know it's been a bit of a tough week. We've had a couple of things go awry this week in terms of a couple of people passing in the family. So I guess dedicate this one to the Down family. I know they were watching it on their phones and on the TV in the lounge room at the family outing. So hopefully, hopefully did all you guys proud.
Madison down there picking up a race victory, and one that he so very, very much needed. Second position today went to Forza Nabi, stood by with Reese Gardner.
Indeed, he is. Welcome back to the commentary box, Forzan. It was a great drive from you, holding the lead for much of that last half, but ultimately Down getting by you at turn 4. How did that happen?
I think the reason is because I was in the wrong gear. I was actually in 4th gear, coming off that corner rather than 3rd, which is why he got a good run over me. So yeah, it's stupid mistake by myself. But yeah, that last stint was really tough, having to fuel save. Obviously short field, had to fuel save a lot, being in front with no draft as well. So yeah, worth the risk. I think it was a pretty decent effort, but yeah, it's kind of sucks not to win the race, of course.
Well, talking about the fuel strategy, your strategy was on point. I mean, I think back to that second stop, you were able to take Madison round the outside on the pit exit. Looked like there was a little bit of contact between you guys as well. So were you always planning to go for that short fill and fuel save in the final stint, or did it just evolve naturally as the race progressed?
Yeah, I think it evolved definitely, because I was behind Andrew that first stint, and then I was behind Jake, I think, the second stint. So I kind of like fuel saved here and there, and then I kind of knew where my braking points were and where I should be braking, lifting off and stuff, being behind cars. So I kind of set myself up for that last stint to kind of fuel save, take a bit of a risk. But yeah, obviously Madison was he's going pretty hard, and I think he drove well to get to pass me and to get to P1 after his mistake as well. So yeah, congrats to him. Obviously really good race. Bit interesting after the safety car, but yeah, all in all was really good race.
Certainly was. And with that second place, you are still in that championship contention despite Down's win. So we got 3 more rounds to go. Belle Isle, Driver's Choice, and Road America. So there's quite a bit more to play for, Forzan. What is your game plan for the close of the season?
In my opinion, the championship's pretty much done, especially after what happened in the Enduros and Bathurst and stuff. So I think that's pretty much done in my opinion. Just maybe last couple of rounds, go out there, maybe get a win or two, have a good decent run, and yeah, just see where we end up. Obviously P2's in the championship is still not bad, but yeah, it's quite not good enough for P1, and Madison's obviously got that in the bag in my opinion.
Well, before we let you go, Forzan, is there anyone that you'd like to thank from United Sim Sports?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank our sponsors, Valvoline, Ezy Finance, Western Mazda, Paramount Isuzu Ute, and just all the boys at United for helping throughout the week.
Forzan El Nabi there, second place in this race here at Interlagos, and Sperry, the final driver we're going to look at tonight, Mr. Andrew Gilliam, a very strong third.
Hey guys. Third. There is one more that we definitely want to talk to afterwards as well, but Andrew Gilliam we'll get to first. Andrew, that was a case of the strategy working up until the point where the tyres cured off and hit a level. It seemed like you had a really nice idea in principle, but ultimately in execution, it just looked like you just hit a cliff, so to speak. You just couldn't get it over the line.
Yeah, I think we just went a little bit too aggressive with the setup. Like, we just made, pretty good inroads in the first 4 or 5 laps or so, but then, yeah, just tapered off, and we were just only able to match Forzan and Madison for that last basically 15 laps. It was just 3.5 across the line, 3.5 across the line. I'm like, man, I just want Madison to have a dip as soon as possible so I can maybe get in amongst it. But yeah, I think in principle the strategy definitely paid off tonight, and we were in a really good position as well if a safety car came out late race too.
Well, you're certainly in a good position, but ultimately it was a case of being left waiting. How important has Pursuit been to you in terms of this championship so far? Because it seems like every time we have a little look at you, you're getting better and better and better. And as one of these talents that maybe hasn't come from, I would say, the established crowd of talent pool that has come through this series, do you feel like you're in a position right now where you're probably leading ahead a new generation of sim racing talents?
Yeah, there's definitely this year, especially nearly over a dozen big talents that have come out of nowhere, as you were saying, and with Pursuit has absolutely been my biggest support, finding this pace and stuff. Mike and the guys, we just chip away at it. Mike's a bit of a setup wizard. He knows what to fiddle with when I give him the feedback, and I've got Dave Kinmond over the comms as well, and he's just awesome at giving me the information I need and giving me the clean air and the pit stops for these 250k races. And yeah, it's all finally gelling together, and we're just, we've got the pace now, and we're finally, ticking off all those 1%ers, and we're 1.5 seconds off a win tonight. So it's just a matter of time before we'll consistently be that extra 3.5 seconds closer to the lead in the last 15 laps.
What do you take going to Belle Isle, Andrew?
We've always had pretty good raw pace at Belle Isle. I personally love the circuit, just gliding it up against the walls and smashing curbs. It's just absolute fun. So I think we'll carry plenty of pace into it for sure.
Well, before we let you go here, Mr. Gilliam, third place, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd love to give a big shout out to MXTV, Track Racer, and 6 Gear Imagery for their support. And yeah, just big thank you to the guys at Pursuit Sim Racing. They've just done an awesome job this week, as usual, getting us a good car. And thank you to you guys for your awesome commentary.
No worries at all, Andrew Gilliam there, third place. Very, very quickly, Reese is going to have a little chat with Jake Maloney.
Yes, indeed. G'day, Jake. It was a 4th place for you tonight. Finished where you started, but you had the pace to challenge for victory in the early stages.
Yeah, the pace was looking pretty good at the start, and yeah, it was good to sit in right behind Mad there, and unfortunately I probably just made a bit of a strategical error, pitting too early and probably overrated track position compared to being in the draft, and basically from there on it put me out of the draft, and yeah, with the extra fuel we had to take in the final stop, it just put us in a bad position. But yeah, I think if I had stayed out longer, we could have been in the fight. But all in all, still pretty good result.
Yeah, in terms of that strategy, was that planned to come in a couple of laps before Madison, or like I asked Forza Nil Nabi, did it naturally evolve? Was it a last-minute decision?
Last minute, I decided on the straight just before I pitted. Yeah, so didn't really put too much thought into it. Just thought, if I could try and get a gap, I was trying not to get jumped from the people behind, but yeah, unfortunately it just didn't work out tonight.
Well, nonetheless, it's still a good points haul for you. You're into the top 10 in the championship quite comfortably, so a 4th place sets you up well for the last few rounds of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we can bring it home strong. Obviously it's probably a big few weeks coming up in terms of doing laps in the supercar, so yeah, it's just good to get up and race the people at the front and continue the strong run we've been on, particularly through the Enduros.
Well, before we let you go, Jake, anyone that you'd like to thank from your garage?
Everyone from the team at TTR, we've been performing really well lately, and yeah, just VRS, being able to compare data helped a lot, especially this round, finding pace compared to Richard.
Thank you very much, Jake Maloney, 4th place there in the Interlagos 250 here in V8SCOPS, Sperry. I think that brings to an end proceedings for tonight.
I think it does, and it was some wonderful racing that has come about of it, and what a moment in the championship that was. That gear shift, that could have been everything, and that one overtake, that is the difference from Forza Nil Nabi feeling triumphant, from him saying tonight that the championship is all over. But it's not over just yet. There are still places where things can be won and can be lost, and the next place to go is to the city streets. We go to the Motor City. It is Detroit Belle Isle, and it will be coming to you in November, early November. So you've got a month off here, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your break. But a massive thanks has to go to those who get it done for us here today over the course of this event. First and very much foremost here in terms of the racing action that we have had. A massive thanks goes to Ezy Finance, who have been helping to sponsor the round. Motum Simulations have been on the replays. The title sponsor of this series, the Virtual Racing School, and of course Oceanic Sim Racing, the work that the likes of Henry King, Michael Korolev, Simon Black, they've all been doing behind the scenes, has been absolutely sensational. This has been a SimSpeed TV presentation on the iRacing Esports Network. On the cameras has been Jay Kennedy. Behind the microphone over to my left-hand side has been the Southpaw racer, Reese Gardner. My name's Jake Sperry. Madison down. Oh, what a win, and how much he will savour that one, because it looked like he didn't have much to fight with in the late stages of that race, but my, did he put the pressure on. There was some argy-bargy, there were some mistakes, but ultimately now, Madison has got a hand on that trophy. The only way you're going to take it from him is making sure there's victories and mistakes. Where do mistakes happen? Street circuits. What's the street circuit which puts the fear into every driver? Belle Isle. Where are we next week or next time? We'll see you November 4th.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?